back from closed session. The board has nothing to report on at this time. We're on to public comments. Persons who wish to speak to the board on any item may do so at this time. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per person and 15 minutes per topic, unless further time is granted by the board. Your comments will be timed and you will be asked to stop speaking when the timer sounds. Please understand the board welcomes your comments, but it is not able to respond to your comments. Are there any requests to speak?
There is one, and they have requested to speak at the agenda item.
All right,
under
thank you.
XD4.
Okay, thank you. You will remind me of that when we get there?
I will do my best.
Thank you. On the agenda, there are 3 sets of minutes listed. We are going to be dealing with only 2 of those. The minutes from the special meeting on December 31st are not ready. So are there any corrections to the minutes of the regular meeting of December 14th, 2012? If there are none, they stand approved. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the special meeting of December 20th, 2012? If there are none, they stand approved. Next item of business is reports. The first report is from Ascot, John Aurora, who is not here. Okay, Faculty Association, Gary Bergstrom, not here. College of the Desert Adjunct Associations, CODA, David Bayshore or Kathy Levitt. It'll be a quick meeting. COD Alumni Association, Jean Marchou. Jean, thank you. I didn't see you back there. You had me scared. I thought you were hiding.
No.
Good morning, Jean.
Good morning. Mr. Chairperson, Board of Directors, President Kinnaman, administrative staff, and most welcome guests, good morning. The street fair had a good customer turnout during the holidays considering the long hours the big box stores were open. And currently, we have near sellout vendors at the street fair. The street fair started receiving applications for our giant 3-day event during President's Day weekend. We will have a street fair on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, February 16th through 18th. The Alumni Association is sponsoring College of the Desert Adjunct Association's award dinner for up to $6,500. This event will take place on January 25th at Desert Willow Golf Resort. Next month, the Alumni Association will donate another $45,000 to the Campus Student Work-Study Program. This will bring us up to this year to $90,000 towards the alumni's $135,000 pledge. The Alumni Association will be sponsoring the COD Employee Awards Ceremony for approximately $13,000. On a really good note, the Alumni Pathway Student Scholarship Club held a Winter Social on December 21st. Around 30 members of the club went on a field trip to the Palm Springs aerial tram. They hiked around the area and had lunch at the lodge. The Alumni Pathway Student Scholarship Club will take a bus for tours of USC and UCLA campuses, and it was scheduled for January 25th, but it's been temporarily postponed, but that will occur probably within the next month. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
California School Employees Association, CSEA, Laura Jimenez.
Good morning to all.
Good morning.
The year 2012 in retrospect. 12 months ago, I addressed the Board of Trustees for the first time as chapter president. That meeting feels like both a long time ago and just like yesterday. Major changes have come our way, including the retirement of our college president, the resignation of our executive director of HR and labor relations, and of our VP of academic affairs. Since then, our team has settled an unfair labor practice, has settled a grievance just prior to arbitration, negotiated and ratified our new classified bargaining agreement, settled various grievances, participated in the selection committee for our new superintendent president, and volunteered tirelessly to help pass Proposition 30 and to defeat Proposition 32. During this time, Chapter 407 has grown in strength, in numbers, and in unity. Even including attrition from retirements and resignations of longtime members, our chapter membership is up by 5%. Our Victory Club participation is up by 37%. Our chapter meeting participation has similarly increased, even to standing room only on occasion. Members are attending and are engaged and eager to learn about issues affecting the district and ask hard questions about matters that could possibly affect our livelihood. In chapter news, the Constitution for our chapter calls for elections of 3 of our officers each year. Our newly elected officers are Patricia Reyes, Treasurer, Michael St. Clair, Second Vice President, and Octavio Vasquez, Sergeant-at-Arms. The chapters of CSEA Region 10 install our new officers on Friday, January 18th. We are thrilled to welcome Denise Jensen as our new field director for the Rancho Cucamonga Field Office. She started her history of CSEA as a member just like us. She went on to be a chapter president at a community college and then was hired as a labor relations representative. She then served as CSEA Senior Executive Manager for 10 years, during which time she provided high-level strategic counsel to CSEA association presidents and their boards. In CSEA state news, Governor Brown released his 2013 budget proposal on January 10th. Thanks to the hard work of CSEA volunteers who helped pass Proposition 30, the budget scenario has changed drastically. In stark contrast to budgets introduced 2 years ago that addressed a $26 billion deficit, the proposal for this year predicts the state will eliminate the budget deficit and future budgets will continue to be balanced. True to his commitment, the governor's budget proposal continues to protect education funding and pays down the debt and expands health care coverage as the state implements federal health care reform. So all of these things are things that have happened within the last year, and like I said before, it seems like only yesterday, but in looking back, so much has happened, and we again reiterate our trust in both President Kinnaman and the board, and we appreciate all the hard work and the difficult decisions that you make each time that you meet. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Laura. COD Foundation, Mr. Hummer, Jim Hummer.
Good morning. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes. I'm sure some of you wonder what we do all day at the foundation, so I kind of figured we'd give you a little bit of an update. First of all, on the Barry Manilow event that happened in December, I've got some proud news to say that of the 27 charities that participated in the Barry Manilow benefit concerts, we were the #1 fundraiser of all 27 charities. To date, we received $81,000 from the sale of VIP tickets. So as you can see from the Desert Charity News, $1 million was raised by Barry, and in effect we've been the beneficiary of $81,000. Another way to look at kind of what measures of success, and I'm always looking at metrics, how's the foundation doing? I'm proud to also let the board know that we've achieved this last calendar year an increase in revenues by 24%. In 2011, we had total revenues of $2.6 million. This last year, in 2012, we've increased that to $3.2 million. We're in the process of reviewing our 2012 financials, and more of that will be coming out given it's the end of the year. So that's roughly an increase in revenues of $636,000 in the foundation work. Now I know there's been a lot of questions about our marketing plan and a lot of the events that we do. I think I can't say the marketing program is a direct result of these increase in revenues, but I can say that in the first 6 months of 2012, we experienced $1 million more in revenues than we did since July 1st. So, and that's when the marketing plan was really in high gear. I think overall it's part of everything that the foundation does that has experienced this increase in revenues. Now, our next event, which is the Stepping Out for COD at February 21st in McCallum for the Desert Charity News. On the first page, you can see a front page ad. We're starting our publicity for this. And then on page 32, there's a full article about the actual event that's coming up. You'll see more in the Desert Sun, and as we continue to go out and get into the press and also on TV and radio. But at this point, last year, for One Enchanted Evening, we had revenues and sponsorships of $116,000. Where we stand today, and we haven't even closed our sponsorships, we're at $221,000. So we almost doubled where last year we were on sponsorships and ticket sales. Another metric to be able to gauge success is how are we doing in generating new scholarships. We were just awarded $25,000 scholarship grant from Edison. Windermere Realty, this is the first time they've participated with College of the Desert, and they are awarding 3 student scholarships in the area of business, economics, and real estate for a total of around $7,500. The Desert Resorts Concierge Association is drafting an agreement for scholarships with the College of the Desert, and Steve Quintanilla is working on fundraising of a $25,000 EMT training trailer. And we received a $200,000 check from the estate of Charles Yates, which will go to fund the President's Scholarship Fund. Okay, one last thing. February 1st and 2nd, Foundation Board Retreat Strategic Planning Session. And finally, the Foundation Board last month authorized $100,000 to fund 30 priority sections for classes in the spring semester, which we're assisting the college out in that particular area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Difficult to say stuff when somebody's giving you such.
I know, it's very hard, and I think at some future meeting we have planned for the foundation to make it present in a study session so we
Oh,
can
that's wonderful.
go into more detail and discuss this. Thank you, Jim. Academic Senate, Zarel Becker.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I spent 7 hours writing my written report to you this month because I was trying to find a way to let you know how difficult things are for faculty on campus without sounding like a whiner and a complainer. Not sure how well I did. What you finally got is a laundry list of projects that we hope to complete this spring, and a list that really isn't going to tell you anything unless you think back and know that they have been on a number of my board reports since June of 2011. And I think we all know that the bigger frustration than a no is no answer at all. So we need to move forward on these, and I think it's not any one person's fault. In fact, I can tell you Joel was just as upset about emeritus status when we talked about it on Monday as I am, because a lot of these things are left over and they've simply been hanging out there. But we do need to spend some time and energy on this. We all know that we've been hit big with a lot of different issues and a lot of things in the Desert Sun. And I think we're finding it difficult to maintain a spirit of excitement and interest and moving forward. We all understand also that a huge amount of energy has gone into addressing the FTES issue and addressing the athletics issue and Public Safety Academy. And we know we're going to be under a microscope and that we're going to have to spend a huge amount of time working on a lot of those issues. From the faculty perspective, though, we need to start spending more time on instruction. And we need to reinvent COD, not just from the fiscal standpoint, but also from the instructional standpoint. The Senate has been asking to take a leadership role. We've been told, wait. We've been told, hang on, we've got other things to do. I think the time has come that we need to take a very active role in doing that, and hope that we can get some support from administration in moving forward in some areas. How I'm going to do that, I don't know, but we'll be discussing it at our Flex presentation. We'll also be discussing it at our first Senate exec, and we'll try to move forward on that. But I think it's just important that we see some movement there. Which brings me to our consultant, Donald Burrs. And if I'm running out of my 3 minutes, then I'm on the agenda later. I think I finally have this figured out. The Senate Executive Committee Met with Donald Burrs for almost 2 hours last December. We really appreciate Dr. Kinnaman setting that up. We were very supportive of him. We think he has a lot to offer the college. However, our one consideration was that they maintain sufficient contact with faculty and that the Senate have a very active role in what he's doing. I spent the last 20 minutes while you were in closed session talking to him, and I'm comfortable that he intends to do that, but should I finish now or should I come back later? I have about 30 seconds.
Let's give you the 3 minutes at the end, at the next agenda item. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You may have more by then. Thank you. Mr. Bergstrom, I saw you coming. Are you still interested in speaking, sir?
I looked at the agenda and I was after her.
The agenda.
But that's okay.
We got these little pink sheets.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm just gonna, yeah, you guys read my report. I'm just going to hit some highlights of my report. Obviously, I was talking about the optimism that a lot of people are projecting for the state of California. I sent out some reports to the whole campus talking about the legislative analyst office projections for this year and upcoming year. They're projecting the smallest deficit in years. In fact, within a few years, they're projecting a surplus. So things are looking up. Housing starts are the highest they've been in years. Automobile sales are going crazy. This is all good. I'd like to read this next part because I think this is important, and I know you already read it, but I'd just like to repeat it. Just as importantly, your faculty, as usual, is ahead of the curve. We are already working hard not only at student success, but in saving the college money through innovative approaches like accelerated classes, which move students more rapidly through basic skills into college-level classes. We are already ahead of most colleges in creating transfer degrees. We are extremely innovative in creating programs that contribute to the vitality of the communities we serve. In other words, the faculty is already leading the way at reinventing the college. This is important to keep in mind. We're already acting. We're already doing it. You read my statements about the fiscal condition of the college. I was very hesitant to put these numbers down on paper. I got the numbers off the chancellor's website, which evidently gets the numbers from the college, and I checked and double-checked and rechecked and talked to accountants and really made sure that I knew what I was talking about, and everybody validated what I said. And I really think the important point to make, and I'm just going to read it again, is that I think the right strategy, and I know we're doing this, is to negotiate with the state to try to cut down to 5.3, and I think we will be somewhat successful in that. I just think we will. But even if you have to pay the 5.3, pay the whole 5.3, the college still has enough money, according to the ending balance last year, to write a check for the whole 5.3, take all of Proposition 30 and put it into new classes, more classes, which is what should be done with the money. Give the faculty a 2% raise, which is about $180,000 a year, and still end up with a 9.6% ending balance. Now, my information is that the board has mandated that the college have a 7.5% balance. Even paying all that stuff, you still end up with 9.6. That's pretty positive. And if we manage to talk the state down by a couple of $1 million, we're even that much farther ahead of the curve. And again, the thing that's important to remember is that we're projecting lower deficits, in fact, surpluses. Okay? My next point, I think, is important. I've been here 20 years. I guess I'm going to get an award in a couple of days. This is about the fourth time I've been through a fiscal emergency at this school. This one is the worst, but here is what has always happened in the past. The emergency is declared, all personnel pull together to save costs. Then, everybody works like crazy to cut and save and sacrifice. And then what always happens is business goes in cycles. Okay? We are coming out of this down cycle, and we are on the upswing. And what typically happens is when it starts to come back, it comes back in a roar. And we're approaching the end of this business cycle. So the big question is, do we want to keep hanging on to this money? And I understand why we built up the reserves, because we wanted to have something to pull from. I was totally behind that. But I see that starting to change now, and I think it's time to start loosening up a little bit. Last part, I'm probably getting close to my 3 minutes. The mission statement of the college, am I over?
Yeah.
You're
Okay,
over.
but I didn't talk last time, so I get 6 this time? Say yes. No? Okay.
Sorry, Gary.
Okay. It's cheaper to keep employees than hire new ones.
And students, thank you.
It went off again.
Yeah. I didn't
I
hear it.
reset it so it would go off again.
I didn't
He
hear
just
it.
wouldn't stop talking.
I was too excited.
We still love it.
It's time for the governing board reports. We will begin with trustee Broughton, please.
I had a very nice holiday. I hope that you all did. On a personal note, I did live through the first semester of my freshman year, and Carly made all A's, so she's very proud of herself, and I'm exhausted, but that's another story. I attended our special meeting that we had in December, was unable to attend the second meeting because I was in Florida visiting my sister. I attended a central campus development meeting where the architect is putting together plans for taking out buildings as they stand and reinventing them to be useful, up-to-date administrative and library and student buildings. I'm very happy to say that it's the architects that brought to us the plans for the gymnasium in that area. They seem to actually understand our interest in keeping true to the feel, to the culture of the campus as it was built, while bringing it into the 21st century. So all of their plans have been to make it more functional so that the administration, so that HR, so that the foundation will have places to work to make this a better place for students. The colors, the texture, the room spaces, everything is trying to work together to make that feeling of this is a place to come and to learn and to change your life, to open doors, to walk through them, and to go on toward the next step in your life. I'm very happy with that process. I'll be excited when it's to the point that it can come before the board. And many, many people have given input, and I thank you for your time on that. The agenda review meeting I attended, and also I've been by the Mechathermal campus and the India campus, because since Juan's retired there, not totally without a captain, but they don't have that close tie that they've had before. So we all need to remember that and check in when we can and get the feeling and report it to the appropriate bodies when they need something and simply don't know where to go. So the next item, of course, the fair is coming up. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you, it'll be the 15th through the 24th of February. And you all are, I think it'd be a fun time, and I hope that you can all attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Marvin.
I've already submitted my report, so I won't take up any more time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Trustee Sanchez.
Well, this past month has been about health and wellness throughout the Coachella Valley. I attended the Humana Challenge conference of President Clinton. It was wonderful. He spoke a highlight. Former President Clinton talked about the healthy eating habits with an educational component. Coachella Valley can be a model for the nation since our size, our demographic, and our educational system is in place here. I also attended one of the great things in our city, the Humana Challenge, the public and private partnerships of our big wellness center that just opened in Desert Hot Springs. I want to thank everyone that was involved. The Congressman Raul Ruiz, Assemblyman Manuel Perez, and as well as Supervisor John Bonet was there, as well as I was. The next day following, we participated with the Humana Kaboom Festival in Desert Hot Springs. We all built a center for the kids. It was called Kaboom. We had over 350 volunteers from around the community building our great project. Met with John Furby, where we donated, whom donated a lot at our aquatic. It's called the John Furby Aquatic Center, which was really great to have in our city. Also, one particular note for our College of the Desert was that a student was with me at that event at the Clinton Foundation. She represented the College of the Desert Radio Club, so she was there representing the College of the Desert, and I introduced her to several dignitaries there, so it was great to have a representative, a student, so we can have these dignitaries come to the College of the Desert radio show. So that's going to be a great opportunity for our COD to have all these people come to our student-run radio program. So she's going to be working on those contacts. I also want to mention that we have some of the best healthy experts on our faculty that I think maybe in the future we should partner with. A lot of our the public and private partnership with Humana. I think we should take advantage of our great faculty that are here and continue to work with them for next year. Our city of Desert Hot Springs is very excited as well to hear about, I think you're going to be mentioning that, President McKinnon, about our educational center in Desert. So we're looking forward to hear that we get our center out in Desert Hot Springs. We're very excited, and I think you're going to be mentioning that. So, and also want to mention that I went to the College of the Desert Foundation meeting and to introduce myself. Since I'm new, I wanted to meet with the foundation, and just wanted to say that it was nice being there. So. Another thing that I also want to mention, which we're going to be planning to do at the Desert Hot Springs Wellness Center, is talk about affordable education. I'll be going there and talking about scholarships and affordability out there. I want to see if anybody in our faculty would love to come out and help us tell the students and our community of Desert Hot Springs about all those wonderful scholarships, our pathways to success. I also want to mention about the Dr. Karian Foundation Scholarship. The due date is on. So we're going to be doing a partnership out there. I will be coming out there, and I need the help of COD staff and faculty if we could come out and talk about that. So I'm very excited to inform our communities about the deadline. The deadline is March 2nd with all our scholarships. I also want to mention about audition. For the COD production, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's very important that we mention that as well. And something that I'm also getting out there is the Friends of the College Desert Library, January 17th through the 20th. For every store purchase and online purchase, just mention the Friends of the College at Barnes & Noble, and that will be going, the proceeds will be going to the Friends of the College of the Desert Library. January 17th through the 20th. And just mention the word Friends, College of the Desert Library. So I want to thank you for all the hard work, and I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Trustee Stefan.
Okay, today I'm kind of on a little high here because of the fact that in October I was on a very downturn. You all know I work at Amistad High School. We have these parent meetings. We have them 4 times a year. And in October we had one, and we had 4 people attend, 4 parents, that was it. And I went in and I talked to the principal the next day, and I said, we got to do something to turn the parents around so we can turn the students around, because we have continuation high school, and those kids really need to turn around. And, oh, I'm not too far away from this, okay. So what I did after that was I went over and I talked to Juan Lujan. He hadn't retired yet. And he suggested I contact Javier Madrigal. And Javier and I worked on it a little bit at that time. We talked a little bit, and we got some other things going at the school, and I got kind of backlogged. But for the last 2 weeks, I've been dedicating myself toward getting people to attend the meeting that we had last night. And the reason I'm on a high is because last night we had 48 people in attendance. And yes, I bribed them by getting food, but I also had my home ec students serve the food. So that way I guaranteed I'd have some parents there supervising their kids a little bit, maybe. But Javier from our Indio Center gave a wonderful presentation. We had, he presented COD, English as a Second Language, because our program was for the English Language Advisory Council of Parents. But he also talked about the special programs that we have. And I don't know if how many board members have ever seen this. This is, you know, like a wonderful sheet. It shows all the different programs that we offer here from various grants and things. He talked about funding, and our school will be having a Cash for College grant application writing program, and COD will again be in attendance. That's this coming Wednesday. And also he talked about how to get in, new student checklist and returning student checklist. And then he talked about the 52 programs that we offer, and how many of those are transferable and how many are not transferable, and how many you can get a job with in just a few months here. You know, and for some of us, you know, like 18 months is a long time, but for 18 months and being able to go out there and get a $40,000 or better paying job, $40,000 a year or better, is really a big success for a lot of my students and for their parents. So it was greatly attended. The people were really appreciative. And I'm on a high because COD was the presentation, and it was our main drawing card. I failed, you know, even though we had food, you know, I mean, you can't discount the food, but the kids, my students were there because I was giving them credit for listening to a college presentation, and COD came through for me big time, and they had really wonderful information to share with everybody. And that's my report.
And these are our, you can see here, this is our color, scarlet. This is not our color. I don't know what the hell this is, but it's not easy to even copy. If you go anywhere and you want to buy something, a shirt or anything else, and you ask for scarlet, scarlet is scarlet. Those are the school colors. These are not the school colors. Obviously you can do it, and I know they've made improvements in it, looked at it in the past, and thank you for doing that. But that is actually scarlet on that card. And we need to take precaution to make sure that we always use our regular school colors, which to me are very important. And some of you may not be, but if you want to buy something with school colors, you try to find this color somewhere. You can't. And you'll get all kinds of things. So we're improving on that, and I appreciate it. But I'd like to point out still that we have to be concerned about the colors that are used for the colleges.
Thank you, John. Just want to mention one important thing. Desert Hot Springs had our first annual Christmas parade, and I wanted to show the certificate of appreciation to everybody that we participated in that first annual parade along with our Congressman Raul Ruiz, Assemblyman Manuel Perez, and I represented the COD for our district. So very excited to report our first annual Christmas parade. We had over 3,000 attendees. Very important. Thank you very much, Chairman, for allowing me to mention that.
Thank you very much. My report. Unfortunately, my life has not been as exciting as Trustee Sanchez and Trustee Stefan the last few weeks. I wish it was. I want to thank everyone for their holiday wishes that were sent to the board. I know a lot of them were from organizations and groups on campus and from individuals, and I know we appreciate that, and we wish you all a very happy new year. As we enter 2013, we all pray hope that it'll be better than 2012 was. I attended a number of meetings, some of the same ones as Becky, and I just wanted to piggyback onto her comment regarding the Central Campus Redevelopment Project. Many years ago, when I was still on staff and we passed the bond issue, we made a decision as a college, and I was not part of that process, so I separate myself from it, that we would not hire an architectural firm to do the whole campus. We were going to go with individual architects. And at the time it made sense because people were tired of the monotonous conformity on campus. And we wanted to do striking, startling buildings like the one we're sitting in. And having been on this committee to build this building, and now serving on the redevelopment for the Central Campus Committee, I think in hindsight, I think we probably would have been better off not hiring different architects. And for the reasons that Trustee Broughton mentioned, the people from PPL, I think not PPL, PLA, LPA, what's the architectural firm? Steve, help me. LPA. Too many P's and L's around. But they know us from working on the gymnasium, and I think it's making the process much more effective because they understand the campus climate. They understand what faculty and staff and students and administrators, where we're coming from. And I think we could have managed to end up with a product that was not monotonous uniformity and still maybe done a better job, but it had a cohesiveness that represented the feeling of this community and of the campus, and may have actually ended up being a less difficult process and also less costly, because I think there's cost involved in learning who we are. There's time, there's money. And I say this because of the great experience we're having with this central core of the campus, and how these people are overwhelming me. Having worked on this building, I'm overwhelmed at how efficient it is going. And I think it's something we need to consider as we move forward with what we have remaining of the bond. And how we approach some of this, we may not be doing ourselves the best service. And I think that's just something I want to recommend as a consideration as we move forward. And that's all I really want to say today. Okay, thank you. So now we are on to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be considered for approval by a single vote without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda to be discussed and considered separately in the action agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Action agenda. Items pulled from the consent agenda were none, so we're moving on to the action agenda. Ratification of board member travel. Number 1. Do I have a motion to ratify the travel as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
I have a question. I'm wondering, I guess I'm confused on, I know that we have a budget for board travel, and that basically each of us have an assignment of money proportionally. Does that go to the person or to the seat?
Well, theoretically, it's to the person. So we each have, for those of you who don't know, we have a $10,000 travel budget that we split for various reasons in the past to $2,000 per trustee. With a change in assignments, election, we now have a new trustee. The previous holder of that seat traveled, and the current trustee is traveling. And we are if you look at it correctly, we've overspent for that seat. But I think we have to be flexible this time, and I'm doubtful that we as a group.
I'm not objecting at all. I think it's important that new
Yeah.
trustees have an opportunity for training, so don't take it as that. I was simply trying to figure out how that's proportional.
I would like to speak a little bit further to that. It used to be that the trustees had a budget of around $50,000 for all the trustees for all year. And it included the snacks and God knows what.
Yeah.
But without us being involved, it was cut in half. And then I think since then it's been cut some more. And we got into a situation where we had a trustee that was doing considerable traveling. and we were concerned about that. That trustee is no longer here. I think that we have a new trustee that probably could benefit by training and travel.
That's why I'm saying.
And I would like us to see us look again at travel, not only for trustees, but for our employees.
Yeah.
I've talked about that before, and there wasn't much interest there, but I think there's a big difference between out-of-state and in-state. You can travel all over the state, including Tahoe, including Sacramento, and nobody ever sees it. I'm willing to, if we split it up to $2,000 apiece, I'm willing to give my $2,000 to the new trustee to help do some of that. And I think when it comes to training, it's very important, and we have to make exceptions and maybe even use somebody else's budget there. And I'm looking around to pick somebody out right now. But I think we all feel that that's important.
I believe, though, we have adopted a procedure, and that has been adopted by the board. So right now, in order to function, if Trustee Sanchez would want to travel someplace additional this fiscal year,
And I hereby give her my money.
Well, no,
Well,
but
we
then
have-
we'll bring it up.
we will bring it to the
And
board
we
in
Okay.
plenty of time, and then we will authorize that travel using the funds we have available.
And this is because you're adding up the previous trustees and hers. This-
No, at this
No.
point, no.
No?
She's at her max, maybe slightly over already.
I don't think so.
Yes. There was a conference,
2,000?
2 conferences, yes.
There's 2 conferences.
So
Okay.
we would have to bring that forward in plenty of time
Right.
for the approval.
I still would like to see us take more time at some time and discuss the whole issue.
Well, you can ask.
We had, I would ask that at that time. I mean, just the monies that the board has to function with.
Mhm.
As far as I remember, we were basically taken down to zero,
I
or
think,
close to it.
I think we should put that on when we get to the future agenda items. I
Yeah.
think it's something we want to put on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. President items, certification of signatures. Do I have a motion to approve the certification of signatures as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2, study agreement. Do I have a motion to approve the study agreement as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think President Kinnaman, you wanted to speak to this, please?
Yes, I'd like to, if I may. This agreement, as you're aware, I recently met with Chancellor Harris and Vice Chancellor Bryce Harris and Vice Chancellor Fred Harris and Vice Chancellor Skinner in Sacramento to talk to them about our FTES reporting issue, and walked away feeling very, very positive. I'll share with the board that they were very positive about the direction trustees has taken on this matter in having staff review and address this and doing so in a very transparent way and in collaboration with the Chancellor's staff. So I share that with you, the appreciation from Chancellor Bryce Harris to the board. In our discussions, it was noted that not all districts approach things in that manner, and not all boards approach things in that manner, and it makes it much more difficult and oftentimes create more challenges for the institution when that doesn't occur. In that, they have committed and are working with us to reconcile this issue. I am very happy that we're starting a new year. I believe that this chapter will be behind us within a matter of a month or two, and that we can move forward. One of the assurances I provided to the Chancellor's office is it's important that they are able to say that College of the Desert has went through a comprehensive review, They've looked at all their processes, their business practices, their organizational structure, and that they're putting in place any gaps or measures that need to be put in place to make sure that we can assure to them and to our community that this would not occur again. So this review is our effort to demonstrate that to the Chancellor's office so that they're in a position to say, we went through this process, that the initial review from FIGMAT identified what we were facing, and that this second process that we're going through is for them to make sure and inform us on how best to align the structure in some areas, and again, to provide assurances for again, the board, like I know it's critical for the board to have that assurance that in the future we won't find ourselves in this situation again. And so that's what this item is intended to do.
Thank you. Any other?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just wanted to point out, as Gary has, there are monies there in our reserve. And the fact is that for a long time, this board has been going to an above cap to further serve our students. Some of those monies that, quote, came because of an error have been held aside for just this, to make it right. We expected that and we've done it. But I don't think we've done many things different than we probably would have done if we had gotten the correct FTES. We've been very careful in how we spend our money. I don't want to get to a point where we turn around. You know how this always happens. Sometimes things get tight in the state, and then they start to turn around, and then you just go out and everybody spends money like heck, and we get back and we're in trouble again. But we have a reserve there that was held, and we in fact increased it. So when this came up, we would be able to handle it. So hopefully we can get that behind us, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank the board. I mean, you've had my back on this, unwavering support as we've tried to address this. And I know we've had, it's created some challenges for us. And but again, your commitment to making sure we get this right. So thank you.
It has been great challenges, but our staff, our entire college community has hung together on this, has faced the problem, has said, okay, let's look at it and see what all the details are.
Yeah.
I still don't believe that there was any intent for fraud. It did happen that we took the wrong amount of money. I'll feel much better when we've repaid it and we're right with the state. But it's one of those opportunities that we have to look at ourselves and make COD a better place. So let's use it as that instead of as a totally negative experience.
Good.
And thank you for hanging in there.
Sometimes people will say, what's going on over there? Well, I'll tell you, if you talk to a student, they don't even know. All they knew is what happened at every other community college in this state. Things were tough. They cut classes. We kept more classes than we probably should have in some cases. So things are still going on here. Students are still learning like crazy. They don't even know in some cases what happened or what didn't happen. Our faculty still is teaching like they're capable of, and things are moving on. You could walk on this campus and talk to students and never know. Yeah, we want to offer more classes, and we will, but we did more than we should have at some times, just for that, to do the right thing for the students.
I have a few comments. I think it's important that as we start anew, and we are starting anew, that we have this outside agency take a look at our systems, our checks and balances. We have had areas of weakness identified by their first report. I think this more in-depth report will give us the direction that we need to take in order to ensure that we never find ourselves in a situation where anything could happen because of lack of oversight. And that's what we want to make sure that as we move forward, we have guaranteed that this system is in place and working correctly. So I think it's important that we do that for all the reasons that have been expressed by the board also and by the president, that we take this forward and we carefully follow their recommendations. It's not something we're going to get a report and shove it on the shelf. This is something that's going to be an action item to move forward quickly to make sure that everything that they're recommending is in place as soon as possible. Okay. Any other comments?
I would just say, and FIGMAC, they certainly do not mix their words, and they're pretty forthright and give very clear directions.
They're very independent.
Yes.
They're very much a fair witness. If they're prejudiced at all, it's on the side of the chancellor. That's good for us.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Did you get all of our voices?
Aye.
Did you hear us all? All right. The motion carried. Human Resources, item number 1, Educational Administrator Contract Terms and Salary Placement. Do I have a motion to approve the contract terms and salary placement as presented?
So moved.
It's been moved, and is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Group B, appointments over 60 days. Do I have a motion to approve the Group B appointments as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Well, I have some comments. I'm waiting for the board here. I'm concerned about some of the timelines on these. I think that we've said this many, many times, that we as a board and we as a college feel it's very important that we follow the required timelines. And we have people who started doing work in September for compensation, and the items are just coming to us now, and it's now January for approval. I think it's important that we, even though this is an ongoing, some of these are ongoing in nature, I think it's important that we do everything we can to get these in on time, as quickly as possible within the normal 60-day time limit. That's quite an extensive period of time, and we would like to make sure that we do that as much as possible. We've improved greatly since Trustee Broughton and I served on the committee to look at how we do business. I think we've improved. I think we continue to improve, but I think when we come into situations of such a time lag, it does not look good for us as an organization. I think it's part of our system of doing things according to the processes that are laid out in the Ed Code and our normal fiscal accounting processes. So that's my comment. Anybody else have anything to say?
My bad. It's one of those user errors on the iPad. What can I say? It seems to me that most of the departments have worked this out. I know I'm always the one that says that we're human and stuff happens and there's a reason. But it's very important that these things come timely. I don't know which concerns me more, that we might not be paying someone or that we're paying someone and that it's never gone through the proper, through the proper process. It makes us all vulnerable if it's not followed. So when it shows up over and over the same area, then it's not the people, but they've got a process problem that needs to be worked out. And we all have to remember that Ed Code says that if you sign a contract that hadn't gone through the right steps, then the signees are actually responsible for it, not the college. It's kind of an uncomfortable thought to most of us, but in private business, that's the way it is, and that's the way it is in the state. So we need to be careful with following the process so that we're careful that we're moving the college in the direction that our master plan wants us to move.
And if I can make a statement on that, on getting everything on a timely matter, I think you're doing a fantastic job, Leanne. But getting an agenda on, our final agenda was given on Tuesday. I would love to get the final agenda, our agendas, because to look a week before that, I don't know if the board would feel that, but just so we could review it a little ahead of time and if we have questions. So having everything on a timely manner would be most appreciative. I don't know if I'm speaking on...
Unfortunately, some things don't come, and we only meet once a month, and that's part of the problem. And something that helped me this time that you did was, when you sent out the final agenda, you clearly stated what had been added or changed or taken away. That really helped me. Being the slow learner that I am, I printed it off, that part of the email. I could compare it back to my electronic copy, and I didn't get confused like I do sometimes, where I have to sit and sort things until I figure it out. It would have been easier, of course, if we had 2 sets of paper, but that probably drive me crazy. So I thank you very much for that list. It really helped.
I think we've asked for that before sometimes, and we're getting it. When you might get a set of rules or a job description or who knows, and we ask that what's new or been added or taken off is shown, so you can look at it and see it, instead of having to try to look it up yourself or have an understanding. So that helps us all the time. We appreciate it.
All right. Any other discussion regarding Group B appointments over 60 days? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, classified appointment. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment as presented?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear everyone.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 4, approval of an independent contractor services. Do I have a motion to approve the independent contractor services as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I believe we have a public comment. Professor Becker.
Hello again.
Hi.
As I mentioned earlier, last December, we met with, the Senate Executive Committee met with Donald Burrs for about 2 hours talking about what he planned to do and how he planned to do it. As a committee, we're reasonably comfortable that we need his help and that he will be the right person to bring in. But we did say we need to have very good faculty involvement in this so that it's not something that just happens over here and gets imposed. As you know, the faculty have been on record in the past as not being in favor of consultants, in part because of the costs, but also because anytime you appoint someone, you go around the hiring process, and that means that no faculty have been involved in that process of bringing the person on campus. So that's sort of a secondary issue. In order for the Senate Executive Committee to sell this to the faculty, we would like to see that the contract has a little bit more mention of faculty. Now, I'm comfortable that it's going to happen that way. I've had conversations with him, and it's fine. But me being personally comfortable and the documentation don't exactly match. So what we would like to see is some recognition that when we begin working on reinventing COD, that the Senate will have a fairly active leadership role that will build on the think tanks and include classified and administration. We certainly don't want to exclude them, but we would like to see a documented role for faculty. The professional development lists that it will be a tailored program for administrators and staff. We'd like to see that include faculty leadership, specifically department chairs and Senate chairs, because they are also leaders on campus and probably could benefit greatly from that professional development. And finally, in the enrollment management, we had a very good process started last spring, which involved faculty and the department chairs. And in fact, we were rewarded by that at the state. They actually applauded how much progress we've made. We didn't follow that this fall, and I'd like to see that rather than starting over with a new plan, that we build on that, because we made some real progress in that area. So those are the concerns of the Senate, and if we can get some kind of documentation, oral or written, written or whatever, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kinman.
I'd love to speak to that.
Glad you
Thank you, Zero. Again, as I've indicated in consultation with all the constituency groups, I am committed to reinventing COD, or what that may look like. It is a new year, and I'm very optimistic about the work that's before us. As you're aware, we've had the VP of AA position vacant since around last June, as well as some other key positions having interims in them. And the work of the future, I believe, begins today as we approve this. Don Burrs is well-known, well-respected, both at a state level and nationally. He is someone that is an agent of change, and he, my experience is he builds on what is strong about it already at an institution and works with all constituency groups and faculty. He's has a very good track record working with faculty to ensure that where we go, we've all bought into. Because it's going to take all of us to really do the work that I think that we're wanting to do. Everyone in this room and everyone that's a member of this college is proud of this institution, and they should be. It's a wonderful institution. We do wonderful things. And we're going to be a better institution, and we're going to be an institution that others are going to be looking at in a couple of years and saying that was transformational. What I would like to do is, I would like to point out also that since we did have a vacancy in the VPAA position, the deans and others have worked very, very hard to try to fill in some of those roles and those gaps, and I appreciate their efforts. But I also would like to highlight that we had a savings during that time period in the salary. So fortunately, that savings helps us during times when we can bring some expertise in, like Don, that can help us move us forward. So at this time, as part of this, I would like to introduce Don under this agenda item, and I don't know if you, Don, if you would like to come up and if you would like to speak to anything on this from what we've discussed and what you've discussed meeting with others.
Yes.
Welcome, Don.
Members of the board, President, I'm very mindful of the responsibility that comes with whether you're an administrator or, for that matter, a consultant, of having an actively engaged faculty, administration, staff, whatever you undertake. I believe my track record speaks to that historically, of course. And I've talked with I've met with the deans, and I've met with the Senate President, and I've met with the Senate Executive Committee. And I'm very confident that whatever emerges over whatever period of time, that it needs to have buy-in, ownership. And how we go about achieving that, of course, is the skill set and the leadership that you hire somebody to do. But more important than that, and related to all that, is the fact that it can only be done on a team basis. And I do not refer to just the Senate. I'm referring to the administration and the classified staff and the faculty. And not having an actively engaged staff, in this particular case, the faculty is concerned, if there is a concern in this regard after speaking to the Senate President, it will not have the legs that is necessary to implement whatever is developed. And I kind of firmly believe, based on my experience in reviewing documents and so forth, as well as the recent experience that you have gone through and are putting behind you, is that I feel that the college, if they did have an enrollment management plan, a comprehensive plan, we would not have had the results that came about. Maybe not on anybody's individual fault, but there was nothing in place prior to that. So that's only one aspect. The other thing I think I'd be remiss professionally, but I'd point out that when you engage in a contract, a consultant's contract, the one thing that is not put into a contract is how a person goes about their job. The scope of work is what it is you expect, and the achievement. And you hope that the person or persons you're hiring have the sensitivity, the experience, the wherewithal to know that nothing is going to be handed to anybody else. It has to come from the efforts of those that are pulling together to make it happen. I'll be glad to entertain anything, and I have every confidence in Joel's leadership. And I'm going to say this, and I said it to you before, once before when we first met. I think you're very lucky to have Joel as the president. I know about his background, his vast experiential base, and I hope the whole college continues to rally behind his leadership.
Don, specifically on Zarell's comment related to division chairs and others, faculty, professional development, are you comfortable with us amending this to include those types of positions as an acknowledgement of that?
Yes, I am, and including it in there. The important thing is that if a workshop is conducted, and I believe that the appropriate faculty should be involved in that workshop and that training session. There are certain things that are unique and indigenous just to managers, administration, and there are those things that faculty leadership can also benefit from. So I am more than open to that.
One of the things we've talked about in the past was how important it is to have department and division type positions. For a long time we were in a situation where you had the deans and then you had the faculty and there was nobody in between to carry the message or to make sure that there was a go-between. And I think it's very important. And as you know, and we all know, there's a big difference between coming in and taking the ship forward than in plotting the course. And a special kind of leadership is usually needed there, and it's tough. So the fact that everybody gets buy-in is very important, you know that. And some leaders can lead where we're going, but if we're already going there, but they don't know how to change course. And so we're lucky to have you, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I think that's a great, personally, I think the scope of work is overwhelming. And I wish you the best of luck.
That is. I'm very fortunate that I live here and not full-time. That helps.
That will help, yes. Because you will be living here.
Point of clarification on the question from President King. Is there going to be an amendment where faculty, I just want to clarify that, did we take that?
I believe under on Exhibit A, under 2 professional development, amend that to include faculty chairs and other faculty as identified by the Senate.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Did you want to mention anything?
It just means the appropriate, that would be the appropriate faculty leadership.
Okay, yeah.
Whether they're division chairs, department heads, whatnot. Just keep it simple.
And Don, this board's pretty busy, and they certainly don't want to attend all of your meetings. But if there is something that you would like us to come to, that you think we could help with, that we could help with this process, please feel free to ask us to come, because we'd appreciate the opportunity to do anything that we could to help.
Well, thank you very much.
And if there's something we need to learn.
Yes, oh, yeah, and Phil elaborating.
I would like to share that over the holiday. In fact, Trustee Marmon dropped in and we were sitting here over the holiday going over some of this, and that speaks to Don's commitment. I'm not sure how much work he's already done, and we haven't approved this item yet, but you know, he is in the desert and this is his community college now. And so he's vested in education, but he's vested in COD, and he understands the Valley and the unique needs of our students, and also some of the unique things that we have in the Valley that hopefully that we can use to address the needs of our students. So anyway, thank you for your words.
And I thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make one more comment. I want to thank you for coming and bringing that, but bringing the input from our leadership and the faculty at COD is very critical. I'm looking forward for you bringing that type of leadership here. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify one thing, and I want to, I'm not serving in an interim position.
Correct.
I'm serving as, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5, authorization for the President to enter into a contract with Professional Personnel Leasing Incorporated. Do I have a motion to authorize the President to enter into a contract with PPL as presented?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. I might have said this before when we were talking with Tom. And I'll say it again. We have employees here who are faculty, who I think have great leadership skills. And we need to make it very clear to them that they can hopefully be considered for advancement. And we can use that leadership. In a lot of cases, you can't buy or pay for what they've seen over 20, 30 years here, or 10 or whatever. The fact that we're going to go out and get a company to tell us who's available, I think I have some concerns about. The fact that it's not going to be a whole lot of money, but it's some money. The fact that I think that there are people inside who are maybe capable of handling those positions in the future, and I've said it ever since you got here. Just because somebody's from outside doesn't mean they're going to do this great, wonderful job for us. And I think we need to see some people who know the history of this college. To me, that's extremely important. So I'm at a little bit of, maybe you can explain a little bit more of what you intend to do with this.
I'll try to bring you over to my side.
I'm not after that. I think you can make us feel a little more comfortable.
I think I need to. This is very, very vague in the way that it's written, and so I would understand any reservation or question. PPL, again, they typically have I'll use the word stable because I guess being from Oklahoma, they typically have a stable of retirees or other people.
Stud horses.
Yes, that are available, especially for a short and intermediate term work. As we're moving forward with our, in the area of fiscal affairs, business affairs, PPL can help identify resources for me in the interim that can assist us, especially as we're going through budget development this spring, and also as we're doing our budget projections and other types of things. And I believe this work, one of the things that we've discussed as we've discussed reinventing COD is how do we align our resources and prioritize our resources, whether it's really around education, an educational agenda, and student success and student learning. What I'd like to do is find somebody from the fiscal affairs realm that, in working with Don and working with staff as we're going down this venture, to really frame our budget and our budget planning through that type of lens. It's an educational agenda. We're here to serve students, and that we need to evaluate our budget decisions on, is it in the best interest of students, and have we aligned our resources appropriately? I think PPL can help me find that type of person, and that's what this is on the agenda for.
Okay. I think we were going to maybe discuss that about when we get into personnel issues in closed sessions, and that would probably help us a little bit. As I see it, we're looking at two real, and sometimes you don't always look at an educational model for restructuring. And the business world tends to move a little bit faster in some cases. I mean, I'm not saying it all works, but I've seen colleges come up with 3 vice presidents, 2 vice presidents. To me, you're looking at two things. You're looking at the fiscal responsibilities and a chief fiscal officer of some kind, and then you're looking at the educational side. And how you split that down can be totally different. And so if we're going to look at restructuring or reinventing this college, we certainly have to look outside to other models besides what normally happens in education side. That's all I'm saying. And the fact that we at least visit it and look at it and discuss it, I think is very important, because it seems like we keep going down the same road. And maybe there's another way to do it differently. So hopefully we'll be looking at that too as we go along and start talking about what we want to do and what we want to be. It's tough to do. It's a tough decision to make changes like that. But now that we have the opportunity, we need to take a look at what's out there and how people are doing business.
And I concur. I think that for the size of our organization, the resources we have available, and the knowledge that we have here, that I'd like to find the road to go down that all other institutions would love to follow.
The back road.
Any other comments, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 6, approval to hire interim classified administrators. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of an interim classified administrator as presented? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
And we'll be looking internally as well as externally.
Yes.
Good.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Fiscal services, item number 1, budget transfers. Do I have a motion to approve the budget transfers as presented?
So moved.
Moved and second? Second?
Second, yep, John second.
I'm sorry, thank you, John. Okay, it's been moved and second. Do I have
I
a
was going to withhold the second unless Wade had come up and explained it to us for the 500th time.
Wade's not here, is he?
I know, I've seen it.
Any discussion besides what we just heard? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Fiscal services, item number 2, non-resident and foreign tuition fee for 2013-2014. Do I have a motion to approve the non-resident and foreign tuition fee as presented?
So moved.
And
We have a motion, second.
second?
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? John?
Yes. That's a topic dear to my heart. 13 and 14, does that mean this semester that would go into effect for international and out-of-state students?
I'm going to, if the board will allow, defer to Adrian on this item. I asked for him and his staff to prepare
This will
some
be for the
comments.
next academic school year, so starting July 1.
Starting July 1, okay. I just wanted to, that means we have a little time maybe to look at this further. I would personally like to know what other schools in our market basket are doing. I've heard in the past that some schools actually dropped their fees, lowered them. We need to be competitive. I think we got it penciled out that we're going to make almost $1.5 million, and that's 15,000 seats that we could put our own students in the valley in. So it's important for us, I think, as an educational issue to have other views, and we've talked about that before. But I see it, we're always kicking up $2, $3, $4 or whatever, and I don't know if we really have to. We're using a different option now.
Actually, I do have information. Wade Ellis, Christina Delgado, and myself sat down and we kind of went over all the options we had available.
Okay.
And we also looked at approximately 25 schools to determine what the appropriate movement would be. Oddly enough, for this year, there's essentially 7 options that we have available to us.
Right.
And the $190 amount actually hit 5 of those areas. And so we are actually exactly at the state average. One of the things the College of the Desert does that other schools don't do is we don't charge a capital outlay fee. So in fact, we are actually one of the lowest in terms of this particular non-resident tuition. Our fee is right on the state average, but because we don't charge the capital outlay fee, we are actually one of the lowest ones.
Okay, just to point out that when you look at these, the fee of $190, on top of that is what the local students would pay, which is $40. And the last time I asked this, I had a vice president tell me, and the president of the college said, no, I don't think so. Well, they do have to pay. So they're paying not $190, they're paying $230 a unit. And so are other schools, I know that. Last time we chose to go option 7, I think, or whatever it was, for the first time, and we compared ourselves to Copper Mountain of all schools. So do you know where Copper Mountain is right now? Is their tuition?
Copper Mountain is proposing $237.
Whoops. Okay. So that's why I'm asking. I just see us always moving it up, and we need to be competitive because I feel that we depend on this money, number one, and number two, it helps the educational experience at this institution when you have those kinds of students. And I would venture to say I think that their student success rate is probably higher than our regular students. And I don't have that in front of me, but I would think it probably makes sense.
John,
So,
I think that's a fair. Adrian, can you provide the board a report on what's the best practices of other community college in the region so we could kind of see and look at this? Can we
could,
then table that? May I make a motion to, could we just have, not take a vote and maybe?
We can actually provide you with the grid that we looked at. These are all the proposed rates from the neighboring colleges. It has Copper Mountain on here, Palo Verde, Victor Valley, which is in our region, Barstow. And so this will give you exactly what people are proposing. And just to give you some examples, Victor Valley is proposing 190, just as we are. Palo Verde is 190, and Barstow is 184. So we're very much in line with what our neighboring schools and our regional schools are essentially.
So Christina, how does she's fine with it?
She's in agreement with this. Yeah.
The reason I asked that is because last time somebody said over there, not you, said we've run this by Christina. And the next question I should have asked was, and what did she say? Because afterwards she said no, she didn't agree with it. So, and I tried to call Christina yesterday and she didn't return my call, which means she doesn't want to get involved in this thing.
I will specify, point out, I did meet with Christina, and if you'll notice on this action item, administrator initiating item, this time we asked Christina to initiate the item, and so she initiated this recommendation.
Okay.
Trustee Sanchez is requesting that copy of that information. Can we move this item further at the end of the agenda and come back to it when we have this copy to review?
Sure.
Without any action.
So my motion is to.
What, if I may answer the question, you can do one of three things actually. You can just ask the board if they would be okay with coming back to it at an assigned item. So you'd say after X, whatever if you want to do. You could table it, which then allows you to come back to it at this meeting, or you could postpone it to a different time and place. So it would be up to whatever the chair.
And the trustee Sanchez would have to make that.
No, the chair.
I can make that?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay. I would like to get consensus from the board that we move this back to the last item on the agenda after item 5, fiscal services. We come back to this item while copies are being made so we can discuss this more thoroughly. Okay? Do I have consensus on that?
You have mine?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move this further into the agenda.
I think it's very important that we understand about those additional things that you're talking about. John started that conversation some time ago, that there's more than just a peers. But as a side item, I have a friend that's from China that now lives in the Valley, and she was helping students from China come to this state to go to school, go to community colleges. and she has visited with Christine, and she was so impressed at our fees, our real fees,
Yeah.
the real cost, that she's now funneling the students toward us. So because she's independent and certainly has nothing to do with, that made me feel better about it and made me better about understanding when you said there's this kind of fee and that kind of fee and this on top of it.
When you're talking to an international student, they're thinking more with their mind instead of their hearts. And if they see another institution costs $3 a unit less, that's where they'll go. They don't think about, you have this wonderful place in the desert with the great weather and all these neat things. They just think about what it costs. And I also agree that we should make a decision today if we can, because I know even though the catalog says the going rate or something like that, I know Christina has to take out that stuff, and we don't want to stop her in her recruiting.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
I would like us to get to this today.
Okay.
Okay. Can you get copies of that? Or is it-
Yes, I'll get copies, as well as I'll get a copy of our fee sheet, so you can see your fee sheet.
Can you have those in like 5 minutes? Okay, thank you.
Need to get a run.
Run, Adrian. Okay, that takes us on to item number 3, destruction of class records. Do I have a motion to approve the destruction of class 3 records as presented?
You do.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, it sure makes me nervous.
It makes me nervous.
Makes me
Okay,
very.
we have a motion and we have a second, and so, who made the motion? John made the motion, so you're first, John. Remember, we're supposed to be going with the person who made the motion speaks first, we all get one shot, and then we come back.
Well, I might direct this to Stan. I see on here asbestos. To me, there might be some legal action in the future about all our asbestos on campus. I don't know if we want to destroy those. I see also audit and taxes. That scares me. I don't mean in the way you might think. I also see training and development in here. And some of these things were legal. It says legal stuff. I don't know. Some of it in here goes all the way up to 2010. Now, if that information is no longer needed, in your opinion, then fine. But I'm not really sure.
Dr. Kinnaman, do you want to speak to what's actually the process is?
I do, I will. And I am a little bit more familiar with this, having been a California district, that this was more routine, because there's language in code that asks you to, and as a routine practice, to come to your board and have them approve destruction of records. And typically what occurs is it's when a district is also scanning or imaging the documents, so you don't have the storage requirements, the physical storage requirements. My understanding is, and when Adrian gets back, I'd like to confirm this on the student service pieces, that these documents are in an electronic format and then being destroyed. But I would like to verify that with Adrian, and I guess with Stan. Stan can speak to the HR points, and if we don't have an answer to that, then I would recommend that we bring it back. But Stan,
I'd like to table that, if I could make a motion on, Adrian, I don't know if you...
He's back, so let's let him talk. Adrian, do you want to... Dr. Kinnaman was talking about the process for putting these on...
Destroying records?
Destroying records and putting them on...
electronic backup.
Electronic.
We're nervous.
Yes.
Do you have electronic on the student pieces of this?
I'm sorry.
Do you have electronic scanned in documents of what we're destroying when it's related to student affairs?
Yes. What's happening essentially is that as part of the bond project, we're moving most of our files, fiscal files, student records, eventually even counseling records. We're going to be moving them all into electronic format. So we're actually in the process right now of getting the hard copy documents, scanning them into that system, and then they'll be available electronically to all of our staff. Certain records will still have to remain hard copy within certain years. Other rooms can be destroyed. But in order to destroy them, we have to have a board action that says go ahead and destroy them. So if you remember, for those of you who've been here for a while, if you went to the warehouse and you saw all those boxes of records that went back many years, decades, a lot of those records are now being scanned electronically, and we need to shred those files essentially. And so what this action is allowing is for the board to say, go ahead and shred those files. This is a huge undertaking. It's going to include admissions of records, financial aid, fiscal services initially, and then expand through the rest of the college.
Is it searchable in any way?
Yes, that's exactly what it's going to be.
I'm the very one that's afraid of putting things only electronically unless I've really been convinced there's a good backup, you know, a plan B. But speaking from the other side, the pro side, I can tell you that we all know from our computers and our email, when you really can't find that copy that you printed out and you think, oh goody, I didn't delete it, you can go back on your computer and type in the keyword or type in the person and find your, so maybe in that way they'll actually become more usable. If there's a backup to the backup and we can search them, then it may save us hours and dollars, hours of people's time that could be better spent, and dollars worth of time that could be better spent finding information if it's truly saved in a searchable form. It's better than dumping all the contents of the box out and sorting through.
Aren't some of these no longer kept in hard copy to start with now?
Actually, I was going to say that we actually have many electronic files as we speak. Transcripts, for example, transcripts coming in from other schools. We have a system that basically we scan those transcripts in, counselors are able to access them. So this is essentially a more comprehensive package that we're going to have that will include multiple departments.
So everything we're talking about here should be on electronic, should be stored electronically.
That's correct.
That's what we're giving permission to do, is after it's stored electronically, to go ahead and destroy it. Make a heck of a homecoming bonfire.
Correct. Correct.
And we do have backup for our electronic.
We will have, yes, believe me, one of the things I was most nervous about and continue to be most nervous about is do we have those backups? And yes, we will have multiple sites that have backups in the event that obviously we have an earthquake and we have our records grabbed. So
We have stuff stored at 2 or 3 sites, don't we, Bina? Do we have records stored at a number of sites?
We haven't made plans on this new project yet. We should be, yes.
Would they be stored at the same sites we store our other records then, under normal conditions? Like the place in the mountains somewhere in the middle of
Colorado Hills.
Colorado or something? Would these fall under that same type of storage that you've been doing?
Yeah, currently we don't have it up in Colorado, but we haven't made plans on this yet. The project hasn't progressed to that extent yet, but we should be, yes.
So we won't do any destroying until we're where we feel comfortable.
correct. Correct. We're in the process of basically handing over our records, getting them all scanned in. But once those records are scanned, we need the ability to then shred them, so they're not sitting around in the warehouses.
Actually, they're more vulnerable sitting around,
Correct.
and they're more open to being used inappropriately sitting around.
Correct.
So this actually would be a measure to protect them.
Correct.
And, so I have to say, I'd feel more comfortable if we had some wording in here that said something about our backup, you know, what kind of redundancy there is. That would make me feel more comfortable. The more I think about it, the more I'm not so uncomfortable with destroying the records because, like I say, the searchable thing. And the lack of them being available to inappropriate eyes. But I do need to know that they're not just backed up on my thumb drive that can die tomorrow for reasons I never figured out.
Does this, if we waited a month to get further report on this, or more information, or for confirmation, would that mess up the process?
I'm not sure. Wade Ellis and Dina and Annabelle Neary have been the primary leads that are working on those 3 areas. I know, for example, that we have sent over our financial aid records, and they're due back to us next week. And so they are in the process of doing the scanning piece. What I might suggest is that we table it, put it the last item on the agenda, and find out from Wade whether or not that would impact us in a negative way, because I'm not sure.
I'm new, I just want to make a recommendation, just to reword it, say scanning, not, I mean, the word destruction or classroom doesn't sit well, just maybe.
Well, this would actually be the destruction
We
of the
have to
records.
vote on the destruction.
The actual destruction,
After they scan.
after they're scanned.
Right. In other words, as the chair was saying, when we hand over our hard copy documents now, and after they get scanned in, we don't want them back in the warehouse. So we are planning essentially to destroy those records so that there's not a hard copy sitting off somewhere in a warehouse. The plan is that they would be available electronically. And typically what happens from kind of an education code standpoint, the initial year that you're working in, you typically will have a hard copy, and then after a certain period of time, you then destroy that hard copy record, even though you have an electronic copy. So the majority of the records that we're talking about here, as you see on the list, are actually older records. Many of the records that we're currently dealing with, we still do have a hard copy, in addition to the scanned copy that we will have. So what this is essentially authorizing us to do is that after we scan them, that we are going to allow the destruction of those hard copy records that they've been in the warehouse for a number of years.
And the ones we're destroying, I see, they do match ed code, I believe we mean, instead of ed cop there, and so that they are all records that it's legal for us to only have an electronic copy.
Yes, yes, we are very.
And that's an important aspect.
Right, we are very much following Title V and EDCO.
My only concern is because in lieu of what's happening, just making it open and transparent, I want to make sure that these records we have, there's something scanned in. That's my concern. Backup on what's that's there.
Right.
So, so what, Dr. Kinlan, what can we do to make us feel secure about the backup?
2 suggestions that we could consider. 1, we postpone action on this item, or 2, if the board would consider amending the item to read we're only destroying records that have been scanned. Yes, we back up. We're done with redundancy, yes.
I'd like to make a motion on postponing the action till I get, so
What do you want to do?
postpone the action on motion.
So, wait. You want to wait a month? You need
Yeah,
more
just,
information?
yeah, more information on that.
So then you want to postpone the item and then assign
Yes.
a date when you'll hear it. That would be your motion.
I'd like to motion that we postpone the action and get the date would be at our, is it something that we do need to do now? This is the question I'm going to ask Adrian. Is it a
Well, see,
time, do we
that's-
have time, is this a time sensitivity?
I would feel more, this was actually a fiscal item, so it's coming out of the business office, so I'd actually feel more comfortable if we got guidance from Wade on this.
Is Wade?
Well, that's, I think if we, go ahead.
I was going to answer the simple question Mary Jane asked. Wade is in Sacramento on COD business, as I understand it today, so he's not here. And last time I looked around, there's no one from fiscal affairs here today.
Okay.
So it may be even come back to us reworded.
Okay. So till the next
Right,
meeting.
yeah.
Or we can have a motion to reword it so that these are not to be destroyed until we have scanned.
Yeah, but I would like to motion to postpone. That's what I would like to motion for the next meeting.
All right.
But
And-
are
and
you
the-
only going to add that it has to be backed up first?
Yes.
Do we need to wait a month to add that phrase?
As long as we're following ed code.
See, we're saying we're following ed code, and if we say we follow, we're going to not destroy anything until they're scanned, then there's nothing, I mean, I can understand wanting to talk about it more, but if we just drag it out for another month, then we may
What
be
about we
back
just table
on
it till the end? Can we let me table it to the other item after that item?
after
Thank
the
you.
other item that has been moved to the end of the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Do we have consensus on that? We all agree to move this to the very end of the agenda. We have consensus, parliamentarian, are we safe on this? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so we will move that to the end of the agenda and return to that also. And that takes us to fiscal item number 4, purchase orders and contracts for supply services and construction over 60 days. Do I have a motion to approve the purchase orders and contracts as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oh, wait a minute. We have to re-vote. We are
It's okay, I'm having iPad with.
This is the contract that was held up by the Chancellor's office. This was up beyond our control. Are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
All right. All those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I didn't hear everybody.
Aye. The motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Gifts, donations to the district. Item number 5. Do I have a motion to approve the gifts, donations to the district as presented?
So moved.
Second moved, seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to thank everyone that has gifted these items to the College of the Desert. It's because of these donations and gifts that the college is able to do that. So just want to be thanking those individuals and organizations that have contributed so much and will contribute. So thank you.
Any others? I'd like to second that. I think we made this an action item because we want to impress upon everyone that we are appreciative. We just didn't want to throw this through the consent agenda and take it as routine business. The individuals and the community organizations that do make donations to us, the businesses, they help us do our job. You know, even though a 2001 Subaru Outback might not be the newest thing on the road, it is a training tool. And we have to be thankful for what we receive, and I think it's very important.
Chances are that if a 2012 Subaru needed to be worked on, then that would not be a very good message. But for those of us that aren't going to be driving probably the newest car, I like knowing there's someone out there that was trained at College of the Desert to repair it. And imagine if you were a music student and you've got to play a grand piano. I mean, these are marvelous gifts, and I'm very appreciative.
Any other comments?
Question. What happens if, what is the process? If, I'm sure a lot of the people that are here have friends or out in there in the community, do they get do they get a tax deduction? How does that work? I'm just kind of curious because I think there's a lot of people out here in the Coachella Valley that would love to contribute to COD's mission. Who do they talk to?
Trustee Sanchez, in the past, we've improved this, the way we deal with these. Sometimes we used to give them, accept it and say it was worth so much money. It's up to them and their tax person how much they're going to claim that they gave. Obviously, we can use everything we can get, but the process, we don't say how much that new piano might be worth or whether it needs retuning or things like that. That's the department that takes it. We've, in the past, I think, taken the department or division's expertise on whether something is worth accepting or not. And then they can work all that out in the future. But can we use things? We can use just about everything.
So just to kind of shout out for everyone if you know any other items we at COD are accepting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. All right, we are getting close to our supposed time, but can we run over to finish these 2 items so we don't have to return to these? Can I get consensus on that, or am I violating some law by going into closed session time?
You have a limited time in closed session.
Can we have 2 items to get to, can we get to them in 5 minutes? What's the board's wishes? Do you want to finish those 2 items? Okay. All right, the first one, Adrian, if you would speak to, please, that would be the out-of-state foreign tuition. issue?
Yes, I went ahead and grabbed, this was a analysis of various schools. Let me go to hand this one. And this is a list of the fees that students will typically pay. And as Trustee Marmon was indicating, what students pay is what we're proposing is the 190 plus the California resident fee. So they would essentially be going up to 136. I'm sorry, 236. That's correct, 236. And so you'll see that on the tuitions and fees sheet for spring of 2013, there's also other fees that all students pay, health fee, for example. So as you look at the one analysis sheet, and I apologize for the way the copy came out, it was just various colors, you'll see that we're very much in line with many schools, some outside of our area and then some in our area. On the high end, for example, Santa Monica charges $239 plus a capital outlay fee. So they're actually up at $260, about $300 per unit for their international students in comparison to us. They're one of the largest international programs.
We've not seen a drop-off in our international program because we've raised fees historically. We've seen a drop-off because of world conditions.
Correct. We have, through Christina's leadership, quite honestly, we've really worked hard at keeping this fee as low as possible, and we've always been very competitive. And we have not necessarily seen an impact to any fee increase that we've done. It's largely just been nationally, as the economy has changed, both domestically and internationally. Students have made different choices. And so there's been a drop-off here at COB. Hasn't been greatly significant, but we have seen less international students coming in. But it's not directly related to the fees that we've charged.
Any other questions?
Just looking at the first half, I haven't really gone all the way up, but there's 6 schools that are keeping their fee the same or it's gone down. And it would really be nice one of these days to see us stay the same at least, than to go down, just for future recognition.
If I remember correctly, we did stay the same last year, if I remember correctly.
No, we didn't.
Did we go up?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like $3, but still we went up. And the question then was, do we do it because we can, or do we do it because we have to? And a while back, you remember, we had less money from the state, and we had more students. And so it made sense that we are actually educating more students on less money. I don't know what it might be now, but just in the future, the fact that you involve people with it, I think is important, and the sooner we get the information to look at, I think is important too.
Any other discussion regarding fiscal services item number 2, non-resident and foreign tuition fee for 2013-2014? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. All right, that takes us to the destruction of records, fiscal item number 3.
I am trying to see how we can write this differently so it also includes the that we're scanning and making electronic copies of these, and I haven't got the language yet written.
As I'm looking at it, it's actually combining 2 things. By ed code, after a certain number of years, records can be destroyed completely. We don't necessarily even have to have electronic copy. And so as I'm rereading this statement that was written, it's kind of a combination of 2, so I think it's probably important that we do get that language in there about the scanning. Because as you look at the years, some of these are actually by ed code. We can just destroy completely and not even have a record. So we probably need to rework that language.
there are a lot of different records that are normally destroyed after 7 years.
Correct.
And there's no record ever kept.
Correct.
So,
Let's postpone it.
I think the way, yeah.
so now I have a parliamentarian.
Well, I just wanted to comment on something. I think just about the learning process. If we're going to table it, the idea is that there's going to be something that happens between now and the adjournment of your meeting that will help you make a decision. So to table the item and then hear it, 10 minutes later, that's not a good use of that motion. So if the idea is you need to go away and regroup, then you want to postpone. Otherwise, you may want to revisit after the study session, and the staff or whoever you're directing to do something has an opportunity to do it. So you have two options. The table is still an option because you don't adjourn until a while, if those things can be achieved before.
So we
you adjourn the
can
meeting.
move this to another point in the agenda after the study session.
Correct. You have the entire meeting to.
And we can do that by consensus, sir?
You just have to ask if there are no objections.
Are there any objections to moving this to the end of the meeting this afternoon? Hearing none, we will do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Parliamentarian. And we did that within 5 minutes, so we will go into closed session. Thank you. We will return here at what time, Leanne? What time are we back? 1:30.
We are back in open session, and the board has nothing to report on from closed session, so we will begin our next part of our agenda, which is, I have no idea where we left off. No. Okay. We are on suggestions for future meetings. Does anyone, we'll start with Trustee Marmon. You have suggestions for future meetings?
There's a couple things that I would like to see us discuss, and some of them might be in kind of a something we look at it as in the form of something like a study session. One of them would be and some of them should be fairly easy. One of them would be to approve a committee made up of the college and the board to review college executive recommendation, to review the emeritus status and policies. That we could just put a committee together that might work with somebody from the Senate and a few other places and kind of tie those together. It seems some things have gotten involved there that I don't even remember them happening. And we need to take a look at it and see what we can do. And then it might make some decisions for us already on some that we've approved lately or not approved or whatever. And the intent is just to kind of make it fairly consistent so everybody's on the same page and we all agree. Sometimes we tend to put in policies just because of a specific situation. We put a policy and then later on you come back and look at it and say, this doesn't really cover everything. So that would be one. Another one would be to approve the naming of some of our facilities. And that would be easy to do in some cases, but we have to respect the wishes of people who have given to this institution in the past and make sure we don't forget them. And we can maybe put in a real thorough policy that covers a lot of different ways you look at things. I know this, I just ran into a former basketball coach here who's now the athletic director at San Jacinto. He wants to name their gym after the former coach and athletic director. they want, then some other, the foundation says, we want $2 million. Well, it's not going to happen. So we need to look at something that would handle all different kinds of situations that might occur as to naming. In our case here, we're talking about renaming facilities who were named before, like the aquatic center might become the athletic quad, yeah,
Park.
yeah, the park, or then another one might be the tennis center might be named after what now is Wright Gymnasium, because it's going to be in the same place. And the monies, of course, given for that aren't the same as we might ask now. So if we could do that, and I had a couple others. One of them would be to talk a little bit about signage, and especially lit signage, lighted signage, because you can't even see what some of these buildings are at night. I had down honoring previous commitments to donors. We already talked about that. The emeritus policy, and that's good for me.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Stefan?
Something I'd like to see is we're sending 2 people to the state meeting at the end of this month. I'm hoping that we'll have a little bit of time to have reports from you. I know it's difficult, but, you know, if we could have some update, since the rest of us aren't attending and we need to have some type of training.
Definitely. We'll put that on the agenda for next time. I will, related to both that, we were looking at the possibility of putting on discussion items, topics that we would want to be able to discuss and take some maybe appropriate action on. And they were supposed to be on the agenda this time, they did not make it. And so we will get some of these, so we can agentize, say it for me, Carlos, agenda, some of these issues so we can discuss. They're not necessarily action items. Some recommendations may result out of them, but at least it's a formal way of getting it on the agenda. So we're going to begin that. But we were hoping this month. It didn't happen, but we'll do next month. Trustee Broughton.
I'm frantically looking through my notes here because Trustee Marmon had another item that he wanted for suggestions for future agenda, and I'm not sure we covered it. Something that came up today.
Was that the, that might have been travel.
Travel.
So I just made a note.
The whole policy, you know, before we suggested maybe, now we have in-state, out-of-state, and people can go to Sacramento 142 times, but you can't go to Yuma without us approving it. We've talked about it before, and also probably taking a look at our budget for the trustees. That's the other one. Probably fell under that a little bit. That was changed, and we never even got a chance to discuss it.
Trustee O'Neill, I apologize, we didn't have those on the agenda. I misunderstood. I will incorporate those on the agenda. I also, and my goals and objectives that we were prepared to discuss, I've added an item in there for 2012-13, and it's to conduct a review of board policy and college procedures, including a review of the emeritus policy and creation of a naming of buildings, facilities, and other college venues. And so as we get these topics, I'll also incorporate those into some of these goals so that we'll make sure that there's some movement.
Sometimes in the past, the naming of facilities was a deal where you just talk to the president, or in some cases, the foundation sets them. And obviously, they're not looking at, it should probably, the final say should be Board of Trustees.
Yes, that's been a concern.
And I'll get out my soapbox. I would like to have a regular report as to how the Indio campus is coming. I was asked just last week, how is Indio campus coming? And I understand it's right. I saw Matt yesterday, and he said we couldn't be more on target. That in fact, that IID had been able to come in a little earlier than they had expected to come in and do their work, so they're in the process of that. But there's much interest in the East Valley and how that's coming, and much interest from our county partners how that's coming, so I'd like to just hear about that, even if the report is, oh, we're just on schedule and we're still planning. Also, I know that we're working on the Megathermal campus, thoughts about educational master plan again, and I'd like to hear how that's coming. I know it's not even at a point yet that we can talk about it, but as it comes to fruition, I'd like to hear that. It would be interesting to know once our school semester, our school term gets underway. It's always interesting for us to know, to hear how it goes. You know, the stumbling blocks, because God knows we're not human if we don't have a few stumbling blocks, what we learned from them, things that actually worked out really well this time, that have crashed and burned on other occasions. Just kind of an update, again, not necessarily an action item, just how it's coming. Because our various, it's just hard to know. And no one has time for us to go knock on everyone's door and say, how's it going? We shouldn't be wasting their time that way. On the other hand, we need to know. So I'd appreciate that if we could hear. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Sanchez-Walt.
Just like her, getting a regular report of the Desert Hot Springs desert. I know that's in the agenda in the study session, but I think it's with all the board members, if I may say, having that regular report on what's going on it would create an open and transparent for all our communities that we serve and represent.
Give us an answer.
Yeah, because a lot of our communities are asking us in a daily basis on the status. I know in the study session, I'm very glad that I did ask for this, for the safety and security report for our college, and just want to make sure that I have lots of questions for that. So I'm sure you'll answer them. But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Other than the ongoing one about looking at our academic calendar with the 6-week semester break, that's the only one I would want to refresh your, we're going to take a look at that sometime soon. Okay. And next item on the agenda is board comments. We'll start.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
You jumped me early last time. I wasn't prepared. One thing that also we'd like to look at would be how the process we go into allowing students into our nursing program. I think we can update, so we have more leeway with the state, and just like to see where we're at and what maybe we could do.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to give you a heads up this time. We're going to go to the other end and
I
come
pass.
back.
I pass. I don't have any more comments. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll start with Trustee Stefan.
Well, that's not fair. I thought you were going to go that way to this way. See, I was, prepping myself. Just a few comments. College of the District is doing a lot of miraculously wonderful things. And I think we need to have updates on some of those things from time to time. Not just what board members are able to see, but some of the things that we aren't able to see. And, we can't look to the press to do it, but I know that we can toot our own horn at some of these meetings, and I think we should.
Thank you. Trustee Broughton?
I'm good.
You're good. Trustee Sanchez? You're good. Okay, thank you. I think I am too. I would like us then to move on to our study session and do just a point of order. Since we're in a study session, do we close the formal meeting? We continue on.
No.
Okay.
And we also still have that item
Do we have an item to come back to?
floating around.
Do we want to address that item that's floating around now, or do we want the records, or do you want to wait till the very, very end? What's the consensus of the board? Pardon me?
Since we have guests that will be speaking.
Okay. All right. We have guests. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Then we will move on to the study session and President Kinnaman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
He's doing that to everybody.
I know. I'm in good company, though. Yes. Well, I'm fortunate that we have our expert, Ray Griffith here, our director, and he's prepared to do a presentation and has brought some of our esteemed, I think, sheriff and police officers from the area. So, Ray, if I could turn it over to you.
Welcome, gentlemen, welcome to our meeting. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Very glad to be here. And secondly, I brought along with me some backup. I will let them introduce themselves, obviously with the Sheriff's Department, but one thing that you may not realize that both of them know this college very well because they're both adjunct faculty. And I've worked with both of them for many years. So it doesn't get any better to have friends here, adjunct faculty, and experts in their field. So I will let them do their introductions.
I'm Bill Sullivan. I'm your Assistant Chief of Police for the City of Palm Desert. This is my 30th year in this business. I spent 10 years in Indio Police Department, 5 years at Coachella Police Department, and this is year number 15 with the Sheriff's Office. I'm a graduate of the FBI Academy. I have a master's degree. Took a lot of college credits here, and went on, and now I'm teaching at the criminal justice with Clayton sometimes.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Troy Lawrence. I'm assigned to the City of Palm Desert Special Enforcement Team. I've been with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department for 23 years. Initially started my career in the United States Marine Corps for 6 years. Once I finished up with that enlistment, I hired on with the Sheriff's Department. I worked at jail. Worked 15 years on our local SWAT team. I worked the police motorcycles. I worked undercover assignments. Just about every assignment this department offers. And I am currently assigned at the COD PSA as a range instructor. And that's why we're here today. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that we're looking at is that with everything in the news about all the problems that we're having on campus, shooters on campus, everything from guns to explosives to a crossbow. But this is not new. In fact, sad to say, the worst school tragedy was in 1927 when a man became very upset. In fact, he was on the school board, treasurer of the school board, became very upset, killed his wife, burnt his farm, and then put 500 pounds of explosives in the school and blew it up, killing over 30 children and many other injuries. So it's nothing new. If you look back to the Texas Tower, where there was incidents. And then the one thing, how it changed completely is the Columbine High School in 1999 when 2 students, Harris and Klebold, killed 12 students, 1 teacher, and injured 21. Up until that time, law enforcement was trained very well. We were trained to contain, surround, and wait for the special weapons team. That's the way we were trained. Like both of these before, I spent 9 years with the special weapons team. And that's how we were trained to do it. But what happened in Columbine is when they did that, they secured a killing field. And so law enforcement took on a complete different aspect on how to deal with an active shooter. And that is now an active shooter team, where their one and only job when they get on campus is to either drive the person to ground, surrender, or ultimately, if they have to, take their life. But the only way to stop an active shooter is with a highly trained group of armed officers. Now, I was asked a question, what would your officers do if we had an active shooter come on campus? And I will tell you very clearly, nothing. They are not armed. They will try to give locations. We would call the sheriff's department. We would try to do anything we could do to help. But I would not ask any one of my officers to go up against an armed suspect with nothing more than pepper spray. That's not what we would want to do. So what we want to do is to try to look at other ways, and that's one of the reasons I asked the Sheriff's Department here to explain, number one, what are the expectations? And some of them are unrealistic expectations. The Sheriff's Department does not have a team waiting to immediately go. They all have other assignments. So time, how long does it take them to get here? If you look historically over active shooters, between 5 to 15 minutes, and it's over with. Sometimes that's very difficult. Now, I've heard people say it could never happen here. And I'm sure the president of Virginia Tech in 2007 said that, the day before it happened. I'm sure he also said, well, it will never happen here again until 2011, when lightning struck twice in the same location. So can I tell you whether it will happen here? No, I can't. Do I hope it ever happens here? I hope it never occurs here. But again, you have to be prepared. That's the reason they put life jackets on boats. You may never need one, but if you do, that's not the time to go out and try to buy one. So what I want to do is to try to answer your questions, and I have some bullet points that was asked of me, and I'll try to go into that, about the security safety report. We have, if you want some light reading, this is the emergency operations plan for this college. Please feel free to, it's much better than any other sleeping pill you will ever take. And we have a complete plan of what to do. Every classroom has emergency procedures posted in them, or they're supposed to. Some end up disappearing when we replace them. But you can't plan for everything. You cannot write down in Word everything that's going to happen. One of the other thing is that what's the current safety measures we have on campus? Well, again, we have a security officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We run on an average 2 to 3 officers on day watch, and that's including parking control. 2 to 3 on swing shift, which is 3 to 11. 1 officer on night shift, 11 to 7. And on weekends, we run 1 officer, both day shift and swing shift. But again, they are unarmed. They are all academy graduates. So they're well trained and very capable, and I consider my staff very competent in what they do. Are there procedures in place for shootings? Yes. I've put out before, I just put out again yesterday, protocol for what do you do if an active shooter is on campus. How do you save yourself? How do you save others? That's available out there. The other one that was asked of me is there any emergency button that a student, faculty, or staff can go to on campus and press it? The answer is very simple, no. We have, if you're on campus and you need to contact security, 2111 automatically goes to our phones. And our phone system is such that we do not have to be in our office to answer it. That phone number goes to the first phone. If that officer's busy, it rolls to the second, to the third, to the fourth, on down the phone system. My standard joke to them is it better never hit phone 9, because that's mine. Okay, and there has to be a really good reason why my phone's ringing. So that's the way it would work, or calling 911. 911 will put you through to the sheriff's department. Either way, but we do not have the magic button here on campus. I've also been asked, can we lock the doors down? And the answer is yes, but that is not maybe the best way of doing it. Because if we automatically lock all the doors, we may be locking people out of safe havens where they could get to. That's not the way to do it. We're looking into, as I've reported to you before, into other ways of doing it. In fact, just yesterday, a new item came on the market that I'm sending for to take a look at. These are portable, could be put in each classroom. At least that's what the salesman tells me. So I want to take a look at it and review it and see if it's something that we might be able to use here that would cost us a lot less than retrofitting all of our locks. Is this a concern? Absolutely. I used to train officers in active shooters. I've put it on for schools and high schools and things like that. K through 12, as Bonnie and I have discussed, actually has an advantage to us. They can lock their students down. We can't. They're adults. If we lock them down, that's called false imprisonment. We cannot stop them from leaving. Unlike K through 12. K through 12 can basically set up pretty good security measures. We're a very open campus. So open campuses, by their nature, have difficulties. Now, I'm not trying to paint a bad picture at all. I'm just trying to paint a truthful picture, because I think some people have unreasonable expectations of what we have or what we can do. Our officers will do everything they can. I know the Sheriff's Department will. The man sitting next to me, I can say, has been my friend for 29 years. We've worked together. I know him very well. And I know that he has very well-trained people. So my question, I guess, is we are here to answer your questions. I cannot speak for the Sheriff's Department. That's the reason I brought my backup. And they are very capable of answering any question that you have. And so I would say, how can we answer your questions and how can we help?
First of all, I want to thank you for coming out and presenting this. There's a lot of questions that I have. Do we have, I spoke to one of the officers on campus and they said that we're in order of safety for, during the nighttime it's so dark. Do we have some form of button or something that if they see something on campus lighted, they can press it if they're being something suspicious or something? Is there anything like that on campus? Are we in negotiations with someone like that to put it in?
At the present time, no, we do not have. I think what you may be referring to is what's called the Blue Phone system.
Yes, I am.
The Blue Phone system is something that's being looked at. It's being factored in. There's drawbacks to the Blue Phone system, too. And looking at other campuses, they get a lot of phony calls. A lot of phony calls. Because especially during spring, especially during finals, press the button and the 911 goes off. So there's advantages and disadvantages. But yes, we have looked at placement of Blue Phones and the obelisks that go with them. But that still may not be the final and the best solution.
What do you recommend for putting in place here at Art College of the Desert? Are there any recommendations?
Well, we have the 2111. Everyone carries a cell phone. And I know very few people that don't. So if they can call us immediately, I recommend it to be programmed in right into your cell phone along with 911. And that's actually the quickest way to get to us, is by calling that. The obelisks are great. There's drawbacks to them. They're expensive. They can't be placed all over. You still have to get to them. Well, your cell phone is always with you. So my number one recommendation is that everyone program into their cell phones the security office number and also the 911. One thing we do also have is we do have emergency notification. And that's via UAlert, via the cell phones. We do it if you're here, Every month we test all of our systems. We have it on our phones, and we also have the loudspeaker systems on top of the hill. So every month we test that. We are in the process that we will be training nearly all of leadership staff how to utilize each one of those systems with a hands-on training program.
Ray?
Yes, sir.
For these announcement systems, the speakers and everything, you said we test them, but do we test them when people are here? Or do we test them, like last week, I was here, was it this week or last week? I was here for a meeting and they were testing the fire alarms. And to see if the visual alarm for the deaf students was working and if the fire alarms were working. But do we have any, like we do fire alarms, I know the fire department comes in there periodically and does a fire drill at certain buildings at certain times. Do we ever do a practice run for a lockdown or non-lock? But we have what's the word we use? We have an incident taking place. We want to broadcast it over the public system, the phone system, the speakers on the hill. Do we ever practice that when students and faculty are here?
We do the emergency test when faculty and staff are here. It's usually done on the second Wednesday of each month in the afternoon. Now, have we do full lockdowns? No, we have not done a full lockdown because we really do not have a lockdown method at the present time to lock the campus down.
Do we have in place a training system that tells faculty, and I know Zarell's looking at me right there, tells faculty and staff what to do in an emergency? Do we have ongoing training? You said you put out something recently.
Yes.
Would it be wise to take these components and put them together with our broadcast system and every now and then do a mock test during class time? I don't know how faculty would feel about that, and like when a morning and afternoon and evening, just so that people become familiar with this process. And gentlemen, if you think that would be helpful, I mean, is this something we should implement?
Well, any training is good. The difficulty is this is something we would have to work with both faculty and staff on, because again, this would be something that it would take a while to do. We have locked this campus down before, and we have emptied this campus on real emergency situations. But training is always good. The logistics of doing that training would be fairly large to lock down this whole campus and to evacuate it.
I wouldn't see evacuating, but I would see like maybe doing what you need to do, like check your classroom door. I mean, whatever the training would involve. I wouldn't see evacuating the campus. I think that would be overkill. But at least making people familiar with the sounds they're going to hear, how the system works. Because if we had something right now, I'm sitting here and I have not a clue. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do right now.
Chairman, maybe like a mock drill,
That's what I'm saying. You know,
having
Anything's possible. That's
live.
Okay.
John?
Leanne,
Thank you.
you had your hand.
I did, thank you. Ray, you mentioned, if I may, you mentioned anyone can call 2111.
Yes.
But that has to be from a campus phone, if I'm not mistaken.
All you have to
cannot
do-
call that from your cell phone,
You
correct?
can, but you have to put the 3 digits in.
Right, so you have to dial the entire number.
Correct.
And what is that number?
Well, the easiest one to get, and I don't know how it got out there. Somebody put my private line in some of the information. I do not sit at my desk 24 hours a day. So the easiest one is 760-341-2111.
So from your cell, you would have to dial it that way.
Yes,
But
you
from a
would.
campus phone, you could dial 2111.
Just the 2111.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I did see someone come out, and I started getting calls, and they said it was a typo, though I'm not sure. It was my private line in my office.
Thank you.
One thing that might be a cheap fix to that is putting up signs in many, many conspicuous locations so that the students are seeing that number on an everyday basis and it burns into the memory. It's taken a long time for us to socialize the general populace into going 911, but now if you look at it, everybody knows.
3-year-olds can punch it in sometimes.
You bet. And what you have to do is you have to drill it into your student's mind that if it's an on-campus incident, that they can call the 211. But like I said, it's going to take a lot of signs in some conspicuous locations for that to happen. It needs to be second nature after a while.
John?
Yeah. I know Trustee Sanchez kind of asked about lighting or at night. And believe me, when we would go around to other colleges, community colleges to play in sports, sometimes you don't know where you are. Basically, we're not too bad.
Yeah.
But it's never going to be like daylight. Possibility might be if we look around for it sometimes and just see where some darker spots might be. You could put in, even like I've done at the house, is you put in one of them, if there's motion, the light comes on. And maybe that would be, and then during the day, the sun stores up the electricity to do that. I'm not sure what would work. I know that we're not as bad as a lot of colleges, but I'm sure it could be worked on. And I think our students here are probably as safe as anywhere in the state, but it can always be improved.
Absolutely. There's always room for improvement. And I do agree. I just happened to be on the University of San Francisco campus last weekend. And it was early in the morning. They started a meeting at 7 o'clock. And it was dark. I had a tough time finding my way to the building. So we have pretty good lighting here overall. We do have some areas that could be better. I think once they're talking about the covers over the parking lots, those will have lighting underneath of them. So that will even increase the lighting capabilities here. One of the things we have to be careful of is, as you know, that we have to be careful on the amount of lumens we put up in the sky, so we do not run afoul of regulations from cities.
Right. That's why a lot of our lights are those dawn lights instead of the bulb light type thing. We ran into that. Remember, John, years ago when we were redoing the lighting, that became a big issue.
Well, some of the neighbors on our sports lighting, particularly even the golf driving range.
And lighting, lighting alone is not necessarily a panacea. There's been conflicting studies relating crime rates to lighting issues, and that has been bounced back and forth.
All the better to see what you want to take.
In some ways, what's really important is that there's an atmosphere of safety all the way around, and lighting contributes to that. But the manicuring of the grounds contributes to that. The lack of graffiti contributes to that. I don't want to quote Herman Goldstein, but if you fix broken windows quickly and keep your maintenance levels high, that still contributes to that, and it drives criminals away. So the lighting's only a small percentage of that total picture.
Thank you.
Since we do have a representative from the sheriff, questions about active shooter and what is the expectation of what happens when they do respond to an active shooter? Do you have questions on that?
Okay, what would happen? Tell us.
This is why I brought Corporal Lawrence. We have two ways to do this. I could put Corporal Lawrence up to answer any specific questions, or if you have 10 minutes, he can do a very comprehensive, quick, down and dirty PowerPoint presentation that he's very good at. Corporal Lawrence is the person that, obviously, because of his SWAT background, because of his mobile field force background, because of the fact that he was a Marine Corps killer for so many years, he's the guy that I rely on to make sure that all my troops are up to specs.
Please, proceed.
As we're waiting, can I ask one more question? What are your thoughts on surveillance cameras on campus? There's two schools of thought, and I just wanted to hear your opinion. Thank you.
This for?
Is it for me or?
Okay, go ahead.
We've all read Orwell. Security cameras have their advantages, they have their disadvantages. For a public entity, everything is discoverable. So we're dealing with this issue back and forth with City Council on El Paseo, for instance. The problem is when government runs the cameras, that's access to everybody. So say the gentleman decides to bring his girlfriend to El Paseo to buy her a nice diamond ring at the jewelry store. My records are discoverable by the divorce attorney. So I could spend a lot of time on Freedom of Information Acts and things like that. The problem that I have is that most video cameras are put up in a non-professional manner, and they're not good enough quality to do me any good. We just solved the Samuel Lawson case, where he did over 100 burglaries, hundreds of armed robberies, and the quality of the video was so poor that we weren't even able to identify him until the mask was gone.
Yet on the other hand, you see videos on the news where the picture's so good, you can see the lady's face.
Bank
as
quality,
she jumps over the
bank quality videos, the higher quality, the high definition, the high end stuff, very much worth its weight. But they seem to always put the cameras in the wrong locations, and then nobody knows how to work them at the end. They're not monitored.
Which segues me into, I'm the trustee from the Mecca-Thermal campus area, and we've had problems there with the copper theft, as we've all had problems. And Ray is looking into upgrading those cameras. And the sergeant from that area, Contreras,
Geronimo, yes.
Geronimo, would be very happy to meet with you or talk with you or to make suggestions there on the campus on where, in his opinion and his experience, it would be good for us to have.
I have a team
Well,
that's trained in SEPTED, and they know where to put the cameras. They
I
know
would
the right
like that
resolution.
team, but the reason I would like to bring in Geronimo is because he's the sergeant of that community, of our community services district.
Sure.
And it ties in the community at the same time.
Geronimo knows what resources are available,
Exactly,
so he's going to.
that's what I'm thinking. So I'm, on his behalf, on Geronimo's behalf, of the community services district's behalf, offering his time to talk to you. I'll set it up through an email, because I think that's very important, but where you put the cameras, and Ray and I talked about this, that if they're not in the right place, they don't have the city at all.
And just so I can talk about our cameras real quick, we do have we have good quality. We've used them on multiple times to identify suspects. Cameras are a force multiplier.
Yes.
The more cameras you have out there, the more eyes there are out there.
Also, we need good backup. We need good storage of those incidents, because sometimes we don't know that something happened until later, until days later when somebody's reported that something.
Minimum of 30 days.
And then we as a campus don't have anything to offer the sheriff's department.
Mecca-Thermal does not have the sophisticated camera system that we have here, and we need, one of the problems that we had without dating back is Mecca-Thermal did not have any fiber optic lines that came from Mecca-Thermal up to here. We were having to go via telephone lines, which is extremely low quality. Now they do have fiber optics down there, and we can then, we're looking at putting cameras that are higher quality down there, cameras equal to what we have here on campus. Every building we go to, every building we build here, I go through a complete security analysis of how many cameras we need, what quality, and we also have consultants. The bond company has consultants, experts in camera quality as to what cameras we need. So they're not just put up, they're put up with a lot of research.
Right. And our Indio campus, we've got a good plan, I'm sure. Could be a new building in India. Because that's an opportunity to not have to retrofit, not have to hassle with somebody else's building that has their own reasons to want or not want something there. So what kind of plans do we have for India?
Well, for the Indio itself,
Yes.
one of the things that we looked at when doing Indio is With cameras, less is more. The one thing that we do not want to have is another Cravens building like we're in right now. We're actually over-cameraed. It overpowers our recording systems. So if you really look at where you want cameras, you want them called at choke points. In other words, where they must come in, where they must go out. And that's hallways, stairwells, elevators. When we were looking at Indio, there's no reason to have cameras in every classroom. You don't need to see the person taking the computer. You need to see the person carrying the computer down the hallway. So you can run better cameras and you can run better recording systems because you're not overwhelming the system. Also, we can start using motion sensor cameras. Some of the cameras here, even when there's nobody here, is still working. And that's still data going in to our system. So the newer cameras have, nothing happens until they see motion. Lights come on, the cameras come on. Motion, the cameras come on. Which saves a lot of recording time when you're talking about, this building alone has 64 cameras. Way too many. Way too many. And these buildings were designed way before I got into saying that we need to cut back the cameras, make them better quality. Placement, first thing I said is take all the cameras off the ceiling because all I get is baseball caps. I have a great collection of baseball caps. No faces, just baseball caps. They've got to be down low to where you can see. Most people suspects do not look at the camera as they go by. Yes, so you want them down low. So things like that. We do a lot of research into the cameras before we put them up.
We good?
All yours.
All right, again, good afternoon. We could spend an entire week on this topic. Unfortunately, we are restricted to a time limit. But I'm just going to go over a few things here. This was me, 23 years, the jail. I also have been involved in at least 5 hostage rescues. I've been involved in over 400 SWAT missions, etc. And the reason why I share that with you is because a lot of the things I share with you is because I've read it in the book, is because I've experienced, which in our field at this point means a lot, and it helps out. Active shooter overview. It happens, it's continuing to happen, and for me to continually update this PowerPoint, I would have to do it every day, unfortunately. Active shooters are high-risk, low-frequency incidents. Will have a huge impact. It used to be it might have a huge impact. We all know if something were to happen on this campus where there'd be a lot of injuries or deaths, it would be a huge impact, financially and psychologically. And traditional methods and tactics are probably not going to be appropriate for the active shooter and or the responders, being law enforcement, or if at some point if we had armed security at this campus, things would change. Things would have to happen immediately. The time to prepare is now. New concepts with traditional street cop mindset. You have to have the mental mindset to take on an active shooter. And an active shooter does not have to be someone armed with a pistol or a rifle. It can be somebody with a machete, a knife, box cutter, whatever. It's just an acronym that everybody can relate to. Just like we're doing today, having pre-existing mutual aid agreements and other proactive steps are essential. You have to do something now. You can't wait until there's a crash at an intersection before you consider stop signs and stoplights. They develop rapidly. I think when we discussed 15 minutes, there's a possibility that that incident would be over quicker, especially if they are met with any kind of resistance. Usually the FBI profile is as soon as these people are contacted by law enforcement or any kind of resistance, they usually end their own life. Very unpredictable. Here's the lessons we learned. Outgunned, not trained at an appropriate level. I'm responsible for training the East End deputies on active shooter. I've also put on the training, we put on the training with our local police motorcycle officers for the first responders. So the people right now in place are ready for this type of incident.
Can I
with, Riverside Sheriff.
real quick, Frank?
Yes, sir.
I was looking at my response times. My response times, 5 minutes is the critical time for me to get a gun on the ground to a critical incident. Whether it be a baby not breathing or a shooting, I need an officer there within 5 minutes, because that's the time when the critical moment when between life and death, when if you go out without breathing for 5 minutes, the chances are you're not coming back. If there's a critical incident, people are shooting, if we don't get there on 5 minutes, more people are going to die. So what I've done is I realized one day after the robbery at the jewelry store over here on El Paseo, where they took $1 million worth of Rolex watches, I realized that Troy was the first person on scene. And Troy looks at me and he goes, "Man, I was 30 seconds behind these guys." And he was working a motor at the time. And all of a sudden, I had this epiphany. I'm having trouble with my response times. Motorcycles can get through traffic, especially during the wintertime in this. It's like Orange County now. The traffic's horrendous. You try and drive from here to the freeway. I know some of you are doing that every day, and it's taking longer and longer every trip. But I can get a motorcycle from one end of town to the other in 5 minutes. So what I did was I had Troy put together a course with his resources, and we trained all 12 motors in Palm Desert, Rancho Mirage, and Indian Wells, plus the motors at the other end of the valley in tactical response. The motors are going to be, the motorcycle officers are now a first response tactical unit that will be there within 5 minutes, because they can get through traffic where a patrol car can't. So every one of my motors has had up-to-date tactical training within the last 6 months. Sorry, Troy.
That's all right. People will die, possibly even law enforcement. Responding to an incident as such, our primary concern is safety of the community first. As like I said, I've conducted 5 hostage rescues, and on those rescues, the life and safety of the rescued person was number one. It's a challenge for us. We're continually training. We have attrition rates, we have new hires, we have people changing assignments. So I'm extremely busy trying to pass on my knowledge on tactics, mental mindset, everything. We do train as a military unit. Some people say we are not a paramilitary organization. Unfortunately, the way we put things together, it works out that way. Again, like I said, we could spend a whole week on this. I'm going to have to go through a little quick. We have to have some sort of an aggressive action. We can't treat it nonchalant. We have to come in. Our policy used to be you had to wait for a 4-person cell. It's gone from a 4 down to 1. If one officer shows up on scene and the incident is continuing to occur, that one person is dedicated to go ahead and locate and possibly neutralize that threat by containment or taking deadly force, using deadly force. Active shooter, one or more subjects who participate in a random or systematic shooting. I added knife this morning. Spree, demonstrating their intent to continuously, that's a key word, harm others. Over objective appears of murder rather than other criminal conduct such as hostage taking or robbery. It's very rare that they will take a hostage, and an active shooter isn't there to steal or take any property. They just want to kill you. We do have a policy, and with those steps, step 1, location and isolate, mitigate, negotiation or neutralization, and 3 is containment. We have to do this on a fluid basis, and we train for that. A timeline for a suspect. Suspect selects victims and location. If we can provide lighting, like we have discussed, cameras, more security, armed security, they're going to figure out that COD is not the place to do it because they don't want resistance. and that's huge.
With
They
these-
will. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt
Go
again.
ahead.
With these guys, it's a game. It's all about numbers. The last guy got 35, I've got to get 40 kills. And as soon as, it's a heartless mentality, I don't understand it. But to them, they want that level of infamy to be the highest mass murderer in the world. They want to get in Ripley's Believe It or Not, or what have you, or the Guinness Book of World Records for killers. If there's resistance, they tend to find another target, or game over, they have a tendency to kill themselves. So the quicker you can get the resistance to them, the quicker we can stop it. And it's not necessarily a full-blown SWAT team that will make them stop the resistance. It's likely 1, 2 officers. They engage, hold them down, and the statistics have shown at that point, game over, they generally kill themselves. Now, there's been some bad guys that haven't wanted to go with the crime analysts, but crooks are unpredictable anyhow, so. But statistically, that's what they're out for. Kill as many people with the least amount of resistance. I'm sorry.
It's okay. They arrive at the scene and they initiate the violence. The violence will continue until people are dead. Law enforcement responds. Now, right now, I'm the only person from our special enforcement team that's working today because of days off. So that would just leave me as far as I'm not assigned any calls or anything. I do self-initiated activity, follow up on search warrants and warrant arrests. So we would have to take a chance at the patrol deputies assigned to the city of Palm Desert right now available. Not on a call, not at the jail, etc., at the station handling paperwork. So that starts to thin out your resources for an active shooter. The crisis will move from a rescue to a recovery. And then at some point, the community would return to some form of normalcy. And that will take some time. Texas Tower, McDonald's, Columbine, and as I added on there, there's too many to update. I could do something every day throughout the nation, throughout the world. Things are constantly going on. My brother's overseas. He says they have active shooters every day. He's over in, where's he at, Qatar now. Texas Tower, McDonald's, Columbine, like the lieutenant said, as you were, I'm sorry, Ray, you said this. This changed everything for law enforcement because it used to be sit and wait for SWAT. Now we train our patrol people. SWAT is an hour away, even though they are a full-time team. They could be training somewhere on the west end. When something happens here on the east end, we have to, as patrol, take care of business right away. This is what we don't want to see. This is why we train continually. Virginia Tech, Mumbai, that one. That must have been my secretary made a mistake. Ultimately, right there is what you don't want to have. That's Mumbai, India. There's some recordings that go along with this on a side note that they intercepted communication with the handlers of the suspects, how they would continually talk to them and say, wait, you're not done yet. You have to go back out there and kill some more people. The instructor from Israel gave us this, and he didn't. We weren't allowed to make a copy of the recording, but it's pretty chilling to hear their discussion on, hey, you're not done yet. You got to go finish what you're doing and then kill yourself. Fort Hood, Texas. Nobody here former Army, right? All right, I'm Marine Corps, so I won't say anything. Suspect profile. Unfortunately, that fits quite a high percentile in the community right there. Red flags. I know Facebook's been helping us out. MySpace used to help us out by monitoring some people. This definitely helps. That's a statement by Mr. Klebold himself. If you go to YouTube, I know it's kind of unnerving to do so, but if you really want to get an idea, there's video on YouTube that has their conversations, it has their actions of what they actually did in Columbine. And these are kids. And we have a lot of people that are highly trained that might have an issue, can cause more problems. High body count unless they're contacted. Desire to kill, wound without concern for the safety. Don't worry about capture because they're usually just going to kill themselves. There was also a video with this young man that he talked about what he wanted to do and why he was going to do everything. I didn't want a copy of that because it was pretty bizarre. But anyway, folks, like I said, I could go on and on all day. You folks obviously understand what the point I'm trying to get across. Obviously act on something now. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We know there's a profile. We know there's some markers for some of these individuals. And you have a lot of information. You guys do, Ray, you do. We have flex activities for faculty and staff. And I think we need to incorporate this. I've always questioned some of the stuff we do in flex, that we don't do enough training. And I think this is a training process for everyone. Many years ago, we did one day, we took remember that we did an October Flex Day years ago, and everybody went to a training that day. It was you remember Zarella, you remember that? So this may be something we want to incorporate into part of our ongoing training, because I think it's very important. It's very critical for the students and the community to know that we have what's in place, what we're doing, and that we're here, and that we care.
And I would like to add to have maybe what other colleges have is a police safety academy day, a day where we could kind of like a fair of something like that, where we could have our police academy or security team, the sheriff's office all come together out on campus to provide that information.
One last comment before we close. I'm sitting in a room that has fire-resistant carpet. I'm looking at a fire alarm on the wall. I know for a fact, because I have some limited amount of construction experience, that every one of these are equipped with fire safety, water systems. And the fact is, there hasn't been a child die in a school fire since the mid-50s. What resources are we expending to keep our children safe on campuses in the United States?
As I said, I did not come here to paint a gloomy picture. Came here to paint an honest picture, and I hope I have. There's a saying that the hardest job you'll ever have is training for the unthinkable event, and it truly is. To think of an active shooter, that's an unthinkable event to most colleges and to most K through 12s. The only way to stop an armed aggressor is with a well-armed and trained response. The sooner the response, the more lives they will save. 63% of all colleges and universities in California have armed officers on campus.
My next question. Thank you, Ray, for going there. Go, please.
And I will let you go, sir.
We have discussed this many years here, and there have been pros and cons. And are we not doing all we could by not having an armed police force on campus?
Well, if you're asking me my personal opinion,
I am.
My personal opinion is yes, for many reasons. Number one, all my officers are academy graduates. They're trained. We have under the Ed Code the availability to have different levels of armed response here on campus. Is it going to be a little more costly? Yes. But how do you put a cost factor on a life? And we're not only looking at armed, a lot of people think we've taken knives off of people here. We've taken guns off of people on this campus. And this is not something we want to put out to everyone because we don't want to spread fear.
Right.
My officers, these shirts are not bulletproof. And again, we have the availability, we have the training, we have the know-how that we could put together a small armed security force. Not the full force would never be armed. That would never be. It would be a bifurcated organization with both security and armed police officers. But sooner or later, this is something we will have to address.
As I said, many years ago, we discussed this. I was part of that discussion. There were a lot of pros and cons brought up at that time, one of them being that sometimes when you initiate armed officers, you initiate armed responses. I never bought into that personally. But that was one of the reasons given for not moving forward, and perhaps, and I don't mean to be speaking to the whole board, I'm just speaking as me now, that it's something we need to look at. I think the times have changed. I think we need to be responsive to the needs and safety of our students and our staff and everyone who comes on this campus. And I think it's something that we as a college need to consider as we move forward.
It used to be that we knew that right across the street we had sheriffs. Now I don't know. I know we have a new sheriff's station. Just so that would be something. I know this, you can't drive anywhere in this town without running into the sheriff. You do a great job.
With the motors that I put into place, I can give you a 5-minute response time for the first officer. After that, they'll be trailing in.
Well, let me go speed out here, and I tell you, it won't take 5 minutes.
Those are my motor officers, and they're all.
They have a tag on your car.
I think that they got a device that they can track me, yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have one. As everybody knows, I teach K-12, and now they're requiring lanyards in case one of us disarms somebody, we can be identified when they come on campus. Is that an advantage to a campus like this or not?
Absolutely. Many campuses, number one, we should have ID cards for all staff and all students. And many campuses require staff and faculty to wear their card where they can be seen. To me, that's normal. I spent my whole career in law enforcement, and you did not walk through a station. I'm still a reserve peace officer, a reserve command level. And a lot of the new officers don't recognize me, and I make sure I pin mine on before I go in the station, so I do not have a close encounter of the wrong type with one of my own officers. So that's just normal. And again, that way we know who's supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be there. But having identification, again, is a very simple form. What you want to do is put up little roadblocks. We cannot put up concertina wire and armed guards around the campus. It's just not going to happen. But every little thing we can do to make this campus safer, little things like ID cards, armed security, those type of things, more cameras, everything that's been brought up today. Every little thing adds to a final, which is a safer. Now, will that guarantee that we will never have a loss here? No, it will not guarantee it. But again, it makes the statistics fall into place. That usually if a suspect is coming onto our campus and he sees armed security police officers, not security officers, police officers, he may think maybe this is not the campus I want to do this on.
You read in the paper about SC now, you can't walk across their campus at night.
Yes.
It was in the LA Times, and I tend to believe it might be in the LA Times. But students were complaining already, and people who want to walk across to take shortcuts, that they can't do it anymore. But apparently they're doing it, and you're trying to cut across, they stop you. without identification?
As I said, I was just at the University of San Francisco in the dark 30s, walking around looking totally lost, and I was contacted by 2 officers very politely to want to know if they could help me. Now, I know what they were contacting me for at that time in the morning. They did help me. They had me find the location I was going to, but they were there, they contacted me, they found out who I was, and then they were very friendly and helped me go to where I wanted to go.
And that sends the message to a lot of people. It makes people feel secure and confident where they're at, and also sends a message to the bad person. And I think that's what we're trying to do today. And we would like to get this message out to the faculty and staff in some way. Broadcast it. Any other questions, comments? Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. We deeply appreciate your time today and your information and your dedication to the safety of this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President. The next item on the agenda is related to Desert Hot Springs. And I've got a copy of a letter that I'll give to each of the trustees, but it's a non-binding letter of intent between Desert Hot Springs, well, it's actually with the county, and it's for Desert Hot Springs Allied Health Education Building. And it's, again, non-binding, but it's looking at the potential collaboration between, and as it has been presented in the past, between College of the Desert and the county, and putting together some matching funds, $2.5 million from College of the Desert, $2.5 million from the county to put together an education facility. And we're looking at approximately 8,000 square feet at minimum that would have classrooms, 3 classrooms, computer lab, study area, reception area, a couple of offices, bathrooms, and parking. And again, this process would include several approvals by the county and also by you as a member of the board as we move forward. This is just an outline for us to begin to formalize our conversation as we move forward with that project. And I just want to provide that update. This letter was originally signed on December 18th. So it's the most recent that we've done on the project. And that was all for this update.
You have some additional items you were going to discuss today that aren't on the agenda? Are you still?
There were several things that were brought up related to some of the policy, and again, policies that I want to wrap into my performance goals for this next year so that we do a thorough review. Some of those Trustee Marmon had mentioned, and there's, I think, other policies that will come up as we move forward, as we go through our review with FICMAT and working with Don Burrs and others. There'll probably be some things that we find that we would like to incorporate in there as well. And then there may be some things specific, Trustee O'Neill, that you would like for me to touch on, and if there are, please.
No. We were, the list that I think John and Becky gave earlier, I think is rather comprehensive of the stuff we wanted to get to. We had hoped to this meeting, but it didn't materialize. So are you both comfortable with moving this to the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Great. And then the next item then would be Adrian's presentation.
This is just a brief update on registration activities. I know you like to stay informed on how things are going before we get to the semester. So as you know, priority registration started back in December. As is typically true, the seats that were available went away really quickly. Just to give you a sense of some of the numbers, priority 1 started December 3rd, and by the end of the day we had approximately 6,000 enrollments. By the time we got to priority 3, which was literally a couple days later, we were up to 12,000 enrollments. And by the time we got to open enrollment, which was around December 13th, we were already up to 22,000 enrollments. Now what's significant about that is that as of this morning, we're pretty much full. The only things really left available are some of our CTE courses, and some of our late starting courses, things like that. But most of the GE courses are done, and we're really only at 25,000 enrollments. So what that really tells us is that once we hit open enrollment back on December 13th, we were pretty much full. So people were just kind of filling out the remainder of the classes. With the help of the foundation, we were able to open up 30 demand courses. We opened those up on December 18th, and within a couple of days, those classes were full as well. And what we did when we selected those courses, we worked really hard to try and identify courses that students actually needed to finish up with their degrees and to transfer. There were a couple of high demand areas that we focused on. And so, largely what we're seeing right now is English, math, the biologies, the chemistries, really high demand. And so we tried to fill some of those things out. We also tried to address some courses over in the Eastern Valley to make sure that we had a full program out there. Also wanted to update you on the financial aid area. As you know, for the first time, AB 540 students were eligible for financial aid. So what we were seeing is that we received 218 AB 540 applications in terms of financial aid. Of those, 176 were through the New Dream Act application that was approved. And we have awarded 158 BOG fee waivers that these students are now eligible for. We also have approximately 40 students who have incomplete applications, so we've put a fee deferral on those 40 students, and we're giving them essentially until early next week to try to complete their paperwork, and if they don't, we'll remove the fee deferral. But right now, we're really trying to work with them to make sure they get everything in so that we can give them the BOG waiver if they're eligible.
How many of those, and I don't expect you to know it off the top of your head, are from the East Valley campuses? I know that one used to hand carry some of that paperwork. I also know we have better representation out there now than we used to have. So how is that working out?
Quite honestly, I didn't break that out by main campus versus East Valley campus. We have a very active AB 540 support program. It's been led by Fred Sangiorgio and Jose Simo. It's a club that's on campus. They actually even go out to, the students themselves will even go out to the local high schools and inform parents and students about the AB 540 process. So it's been a really a great thing. And I know, John, at times you've asked about the value of our sabbaticals. Jose Simo actually took a semester sabbatical to learn more about the AB 540 process and incorporate that now into our work. So it was a really good example of learning what's out in the field, bringing it back to our campus and really expanding services. So I know that we are very active out in the community, especially out in the Eastern Valley. I don't have the exact numbers to tell you which
So
which.
go back to that. In some of those cases, I think the problem was not lack of knowing, but lack of transportation into this campus, because it used to be, maybe it's changed, the papers actually had to come here. I know that Juan used to collect the money in the papers and bring them up here and leave them on the appropriate desk, and before he left after the meetings, he'd go back and pick them up and hand deliver them back, which I discovered because someone said how appreciative they were, because they wouldn't be in school if he hadn't done that.
Right.
So,
We've taken significant steps in those areas. As I think back to what we used to have, and Becky will remember, we essentially had a part-time adjunct, Ms. Cynthia Vasquez, that was sitting out there. We've grown now to include a TRIO program, which has a full-time counselor as well as a part-time counselor. We have an additional adjunct counselor, and then we have our HSI activities that includes a full-time counselor. And within the HSI activities, we had financial literacy and information about how to apply for financial aid. And then again, I mentioned the AB 540 work that's been happening through the Counseling Center. So collectively, our applications for financial aid have significantly increased. Our awarding of financial aid and Pell Grants has increased. And, to go from a part-time adjunct counselor at the EBC to now essentially 4 staff out there is amazing. And we also, through Dr. Neary and then her predecessor, we've been working really hard to try and get, at least on a periodic basis, especially during the heavy registration periods, A&R staff and financial aid staff out at the EBC for certain days, certain weeks. So we're continuing with that effort as well. One of the things that we most recently did is we have a DSPS counselor that goes out to the EBC. And the reason I did that was largely because we need to start to gauge what sort of service level we need to provide when that new building opens up. And so I wanted to get a feel for kind of what our traffic is currently, start to put the word out that we do have that service out there, and try and make a determination as to do we need really a full-time DSPS presence or is it a part-time DSPS presence. So, so we've been paying a lot of attention to what's the growth of the EBC, especially as that new building is coming along, and you know the services that used to be there
Right.
have significantly increased.
Oh, absolutely. I just feel that's one of the things that worries me about the in-between. We can't rush into that replacing, but on the other hand, these small student services that were never written down anywhere, and maybe our dean that's over that area could check that out and be sure it's being covered. Because otherwise, I mean, we may just lose 5 students, but to those 5 students, it's really important. And I'm so glad we have more services. I mean, that's a big help. I just don't know that those counselors feel it's their responsibility to say, oh, by the way, you don't have any way to get into the campus, so I have to go there anyway. Can I take this for you and bring it back?
I got to tell you, I think I view it as our responsibility to make sure the services are out there because of the transportation issues.
Oh.
And so one of the things that I've really kind of focused on is to try and figure out what it is that we're going to need to expand as that building opens up.
And I thank you, but also the ones who are down in Mecca are still down in Mecca.
I agree. And, you know, and I think you guys have all experienced also the adding of the TRIO program out there has
It's made
been
a huge difference.
very much so. And, you know, and I give a lot of kudos to Scott Cooper
Absolutely.
for really trying to incorporate a lot of new ideas
Yes.
and through the TRIO program. And again, that's the value of bringing in some of these grants. They really influence what we do on a broader scale.
He's made a huge difference.
He has.
He really has.
He has.
Adrian, down in Desert Hot Springs and the Thousand Palms, our percentages are so high that our AB 540 students, I support the east side, but also a lot of people, the area that I represent has a lot of those types of students, and transportation is the problem. I'm doing some Spanish language work. I mean, then I would love some support to our area out there because it's very, very important. So wanting to know what is there is there something out in Desert Hot Springs? I know a lot of them happen in the east side, but let's not forget the other areas.
Absolutely.
So,
And, you know, and I think largely as we get the new facility, we'll have a better opportunity to be able to provide things more consistently. Right now, we do make available to any high school, any community organization, if they want us to assist. We'll send out financial aid staff, we'll send out our counselors. You know, it's gotten harder as the budget got tighter, and I'm hopeful that, you know, with the new Prop 30 passing, we'll be able to kind of loosen up a little bit. But we do provide direct service to each local high school. And if a community group contacts us, we are more than happy to go out there and provide staff to provide information.
Okay, thank you, because I know our Desert Hot Springs Health and Wellness Centers and the new Boys and Girls Club, they would love to have that, and I'll get in touch with you to see how we can coordinate that. Thank you very much for what you do and giving us a really in-depth report of our student. Thank you.
And then just, you know, kind of on a final note, I would like, again, you know, it's kind of halfway through the year and, you know, staff have been working really hard. You know, we processed, you know, how many thousands of enrollments. You know, student affairs is approximately 20 departments. The reality is, though, is that we work with the entire campus to try and provide services both to our current students and also to the folks that are coming in. You know, we've had a lot of successes I'm very proud of. We have a lot of really collaborative staff, and you know, I can't say enough about the work that they're doing. And I know we don't get a chance to really highlight a lot of their work. You know, I was so pleased to hear you talking about Javier, who's one of our adjuncts, who really goes above and beyond on a regular basis. So I just really want to thank the student affairs staff for all the work that they do. You know, I'm sure you hear periodically about some of the dust-ups we have. You know, that happens whenever you have a organization. And, you know, we are going to work through those things. The reality is that we provide a lot of good services to our students, and we should take some time to thank our staff for that.
Definitely. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Anything else, Dr. Taylor? All right, we have an agenda item to go back to, which is fiscal services, item number 3, destruction of class 3 records. do we have a revision to that, or what are you
We have a
proposing?
recommendation that we postpone that till the next meeting.
Okay, and everybody in agreement with that?
I'm looking at parliamentarian.
Okay, then we'll postpone that to the next meeting. We are going back into closed session today. This is an option in our agenda, so we are moving, transitioning to the other room again. That's how we get our exercise. And